just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar, brought to you by the beautiful Bloke beer, the best beer in all the land. Bloke beer, OG Bloke beer is now in every single Celebrations, Bottle-O, IGA Plus liquor, Porter's liquor in New South Wales and ACT. It's also in every single Celebrations superstore in Queensland, plus a bunch of other stockists. If you go to our website, blokeinthebar.com, we've got a store locator. All you got to do is put in your suburb. It'll show you the nearest stockist. Also, Bloke MIDI is in all Liquor Legends. We have a little section on the site. You just tick MIDI when you go to the store locator. You tick MIDI and it will show you where the MIDI is. So go to the site. Check that out. Grab a case of Bloke in a Bar. Easy drinking beer, not fruity, not hoppy. Beer that tastes like real beer. Beer for blokes that turn up for their family, mates, and good times. Also, we have Bloke merch at bloke.shop. So we've got the Bloke 10 hoodies left. We've got a few of them left. We've got Bloke beanies, Bloke socks, Bloke stubby coolers. So head over to bloke.shop. You might find something there you like. Or you want to buy a gift for your mate, stubby coolers. People love them. We've got hats there as well. So head to bloke.shop. Grab a tan hoodie before they're all gone. Once they're gone, we are not making hoodies for nearly a whole year. So if you want a hoodie, head over to bloke.shop. But with that all out of the way, I've got the great Gurino here. How you going, brother?
Going well, mate. Huge weekend of footy. Plenty of topics to get stuck into.
Plenty to talk about. This will be a 6-hour episode.
Yeah.
And the great Timothy. How you going, brother?
Good, mate. Actually, settled in Friday night for a few bloke tins of my own. And so if the guru didn't pull me away and tell me I had to go home, I'd still be going on. I'm that good. And
Mate, the midi's good, as well.
Midi bloody good. Actually, might have saved my life, the midi. So, but as the guru said, big old weekend of footy. Typically pretty quiet, uneventful in the NRL. So, bit to get through.
I tell you what, it's crazy because although it makes you mad or annoyed or whatever when you see calls go wrong or match review, all that kind of stuff, but it still keeps us like massively in the news. I feel like rugby union, for example, and I'm not trying to have a crack at them, but I feel like rugby union would kill to have this kind of drama and constant. What about you, Matty? What'd you get up to on the weekend, mate?
Good weekend of footy. We're at that time of year now where no matter what game you watch, it's got a bearing on the ladder and it affects your team somehow as long as you're in the race. So, yeah, it was very enjoyable to sit down and watch some footy. Unfortunate that South lost, but a cracker game nonetheless. And, yeah, this time of year is great because the Origin hype, which seems to go on forever, it seems to almost go from the start of the year, is done. It's finally done. Everyone's over Origin, and it's just the fight for September footy, which is the best month of the year. So, yeah, great time of year.
Quick story on Matty. We obviously had some beers on Friday night, and it's probably 2, 3 a.m. We're waiting for an Uber, and he turns to me, he goes, "Oh, I've got a spin class in a couple of hours." And I went, "No, you don't, you muppet. There is not a hope in hell you're going to a spin class." I wake up the next morning. I'm waiting for some KFC to arrive at the door. I open Instagram. 2 hours ago, he's sitting on a fucking bicycle.
You had a spin class?
Serial killer.
What the fuck? You were scissoring on the bike.
Yes.
You went to a scissor class. What are you doing going to spin classes?
I got a little gang of people that we go to this gym down the road with, and we all kind of just started there, and then we saw all these classes, so we're like, you know what, fuck it, let's do something that'll get the blood flowing. And I think that Friday night would end so late, and the spin class, it wasn't my best spin class. Actually, it was my only ever spin class, and probably will be my only spin class. But it was a tough old day Friday, Saturday morning.
Spin class, like if you had to come up to me and said, "Oh, I've got a bit of wrestling and grappling tomorrow, I'm gonna fucking wrangle a few sheeps or some shit," I'd be like, "Yeah, okay, fair enough." Spin class. I mean, hey, look, to each their own, Matty. I'm glad you're staying healthy, mate.
I don't exercise for 3 days after a night out. Matty was on a bike 3 hours after cracking his last tin.
Mate, he goes, "I've got a spin class tomorrow." I go, "No, you've got a spin class today, dickhead. It's in 5 hours.
Jesus. Can you not, like, as in, because like whenever I'm like, "Oh, you've got to get up early to do this," you're like, "Yeah, sweet." Are you fine with like getting 4 or 5 hours sleep?
Yeah, as long as I can make up for it a day later. So I can't, if I, like, for example, yesterday, like I slept in till like, if I get 5 hours one night, I need to get like 10 hours the next night. But I can always balance it out pretty well.
Yeah, wow.
He was up at 6:30 Sunday morning.
Yeah, on his
just to make up for it.
Doing a rowing class just to balance the body out, just get the arms going. I'm an 8 hours guy minimum. If you fuck with my 8 hours, like if let's say like I've got something on the next day and for some reason I'm in bed late, it rattles me like that because the whole day I'm fucking grumpy. And it's been like that since I was like young. Like obviously I've had times where I haven't slept in that, but most of the time if I'm like for example, sometimes the boys would be like, and look, sometimes I succumbed to the excitement, but sometimes we're like, oh, we'll go to, beer Sunday arvo, it's just sprint sesh tomorrow. And most of the time we're like, nah, it's not worth waking up and feeling like shit tomorrow. Now, to be fair, I did succumb to the excitement sometimes and have a few beers for the speed session on a Monday. But yeah, I've always been an 8 hours guy. But huge talking point out of the weekend. Well, it is huge and it isn't huge. It's huge because of the impact it has, one of the game's biggest superstars. But I think it's also pretty cut and dry. Nathan Cleary has been suspended for 5 weeks. Now, he came out straight after and pretty much said, I stuffed up, bad technique, poor form, took responsibility for it. I actually think that they got this right. I think that I think Nathan Cleary handled it perfectly. I think everyone could tell as soon as the tackle was done, he was like, oh, fuck. I think even the para players, when they ran over, there wasn't really much pushing and shoving because they realised, we've seen this kid come through the ranks. This is not intentional. It's just one of those bad things that happen. I think this specifically, we'll get to some other stuff. I think this has been handled perfectly. I'm glad that they didn't back down to the fact that he was a superstar in the game. I think 5 weeks is perfect. What do you reckon, Guru?
Yeah, I agree. I think it would have been easy for the referee to, because he is a superstar, maybe give him 10 or maybe put the head in the sand. Big game.
Yep.
And it was fair. It ruined this game at the end of the day, but as it should, Nathan Cleary should have been sent from the field. So I agree with you, mate. I don't know what more to say. It was handled well all round. This isn't part of Nath's game. This sort of shit just happens in footy sometimes.
And the only thing that frustrates me is people that have been waiting for a reason to hate him are going to use it. So that's part of rugby league. It's part of rugby league. But Timmy, what do you reckon?
Yeah, send-off wise, absolutely. It was a no-brainer. He took it on the chin.
No pun intended.
Big chin.
Of course he took it on the chin. It's the first thing it fucking come to.
Copped it really well. Was very classy in all of it. I think everyone was actually handled well. And then I suppose the next area to debate is the length of suspension, because that's a bit more debatable.
Oh, okay, so you reckon 5 weeks too harsh, not long enough?
I don't. It's an interesting one because I think historically on what we've seen in other similar tackles, Lawton's and a few others in recent years, it's pretty on par with, and consistency is all we ask for. And I think that's fine, 5 weeks. In the overall picture, it annoys me, maybe more so as a rugby league fan, but I just feel like it's a long time to be rubbing. It doesn't have to be a superstar out of our game. It could be a bench player. It shouldn't matter. But 5 weeks for an accidental tackle, no malice, anything whatsoever. He obviously had a prior this year, which didn't help him, but across his career has so few charges to his name, and we're missing this superstar for 5 whole rounds. The idea of these suspensions is to try and get it out of our game, make it punishment to warrant, to stop people even put themselves in a position for it to happen. I just think if he gets 3 weeks, you already lost him. They lost the para game as a result of it. You can't tell me that's not going to deter him and other players in the future. 5 weeks is such a long time.
I'm just going to point out as well, you mentioned people have been waiting to hate on Cleary, which is absolutely true. I think the best thing for him was that he got quite a lengthy suspension, because could you imagine if they came out the next day and he got 2? What they would say?
Even 3. I get your point. I think I get the point in relative to other suspensions where it seems like they've been pretty consistent with the spear tackle. But 5 weeks compared to some other stuff that gets 2 to 3 weeks, you're like, was it that much worse than, I don't know, I'm having a mind blank now, but we'll use what we're going to speak about in a bit is Nelson Asafa Solomona. Was it that much? Was it 5 weeks worse than Nelson's drop elbow? I don't know, maybe not. So in that context, I do. But I personally believe 5 weeks is the right amount. It's just such a dangerous tackle. It's just, and I get your point of look, 3 weeks is going to deter him.
I think it has the same impact.
Yeah, same impact. But I think the 5 weeks, it sends a very strong, consistent message to everyone else, because it's not about deterring him. I think it's about deterring everyone else. And if you're not the one that spends the 5 weeks on the sidelines, when you see that, it's a kind of a non-existent thing. And if it was 3 weeks, 5 weeks is dramatic. It's oh shit, I don't want to be gone. But 3 weeks maybe wouldn't have had as much impact across the league as say 5 weeks. Again, we're all talking very intangible things, very hard to measure. But I understand your point. If the point of the match review committee is to teach them not to do it again and only that, and not to just punish, then yeah, maybe you could look at 3 weeks. I just think that when you take into factor the amount of ruckus that would have been caused if you had got 3 weeks, and the fact that Lawton already got Did he get 6 weeks, Lawton? 4 weeks? But he didn't have a prior, maybe?
Yeah.
I think I'm happy with 5 weeks. I'm happy with
And
5 weeks.
it's all good and well doing it now, and regular season's fine. Like if let's say Cameron Munster now does this in round 25, the same thing, and misses an entire final series, it's just like,
Yeah, that's a good
rubbing him
point.
out such a big thing.
Yeah.
Well, and just talking on what you said, people waiting to get sucked to Penrith. Like, I had 2 or 3 messages last night saying, they gave him 5 weeks so he can play finals, did they? I'm like, surely you didn't think it was worth 6 or 7 though. Like, surely.
So we got the same charge as Lawton. It was a grade 3 dangerous throw. Lawton just must not have had any priors.
Lawton what, sorry?
Lawton just must not have had any prior.
Yeah, okay.
So it's the same charge.
Yeah, look, I see what you're saying. Like, if it was in finals footy and he did it week 1 of the finals, would you really want him to miss a grand final for that? I can see that. I do think if it was in finals footy, they probably would have gone.
I was about to say, do you think he would realistically?
No, I don't think. I think they go, do we want our biggest star not playing in the grand final? Yes, there has been past instances. Some of the, like, Isaac Luke missing 2014, and then was it Cam Smith missed one?
Yeah, 2008.
2008. Like, some of them you're just like, it's a grand final.
Unbelievable.
Like, unless it is fucking so bad.
The worst thing about Bullies is, Isaac Luke's is that these days it'd be a fine.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have missed it.
Yeah.
Crazy. Honestly, when it comes to grand finals and that, and I know there's going to be a group of people that go, same rule all the way around, and I can respect that, because if you're going to be like that all year, then fair enough. But I think grand finals are special occasions. Make them sit out 6 weeks of the first, you know what I mean? I guarantee you every player would say, put me 6 weeks out for the next season or something. To miss a grand final.
The idea of, it's always been one of my biggest gripes, and I know it's hard because you want things to be black and white, not have grey areas and be subjective, but like for players to miss a grand final, which there's every chance they only get one opportunity out in their entire career because they were off balance and an arm slipped up and clipped a bloke on the chin, it makes me feel sick for them. And as you said, we've seen examples in the past, and we'll see more examples in the future.
Which would be crazy, because the thing is that, look, I can understand if people. The thing is, though, is like in today's game, you'll get sent 10 to the bin straight away. Whereas I feel like in yesteryear, the argument could be from the team that gets the penalty on them could be like, well, we just lost a player to a head knock, and you've still got 13 players on the field. Whereas I think these days, if you lose a player to a head knock, not only do you have an extra man and all that kind of stuff. I know you've got to lose a few, but on top of that, they usually get sent for 10. So I actually think it protects the. It makes it a much better argument to go, he got sent for 10 in the game, so the attacking team had the advantage, and they got something back for losing that guy. Whereas I think back in the day, you could make the argument the losing team in the prelim would go, well, he should be punished because we didn't even make the finals because of that. So, yeah, I personally think grand finals, unless you do something like outrageous, just let them play.
I will say one thing they did bring in earlier in the season, like they're trying to stop players missing big finals games. So I think we saw it through Origin, but for the final series as well, they're, depending on how many fences have happened in the past and in the last 12 months, that sort of thing, it becomes sort of greater fines than missing matches, which I love. Like they're trying to do something about it. And hopefully they get there one day. But as I said, at least the effort's there to try and get the big names playing finals matches.
Absolutely. Do you think, boys, does this affect Penrith's chances of winning a premiership? Or do you think this actually could help them because you're resting literally your main two halves? They're going to come in to finals footy chomping at the bit. The only concern, me personally, that I have is they've only essentially got one game to get it together. Because if they lose that first game because they haven't played much footy together, that second game becomes do or die. Do you have a concern for Penrith?
I mean, you say they haven't played much footy together. I mean, at the end of the day, they've probably played more footy together than any.
Sorry, I mean just like.
But I also mean like bigger picture. I don't think it'll have a huge impact on them. I think they'll be okay. That first game that they do play will be at Bluebet. I think they'll be okay. Penrith. It's going to be interesting over the next few weeks. I sort of leant towards the side last week of thinking, I'm not sure if Penrith's going to lose another game or if they need to. They lost their halves within 7 days. It's crazy how quickly it can all change. I think they'll be okay. I think that Cleary, I mean, like, he's going to come into this final series fresher than he's ever been.
Yeah.
I think it should be noted, like last year, and Matty, maybe you can get up the exact dates. Yep. They came into the finals without Cleary and Luai post-Origin last year. I think they missed 6 or 7 weeks as well after Origin or something along those lines. So I agree with you. They obviously won't play much footy leading into it, but I think they've played so much footy together and know each other inside out that I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I mean, 4 weeks would have changed things dramatically, just having that one hit out, wouldn't it, before finals. That being said, they've played enough that it shouldn't matter. And if anything, you touched on already, but Luai and Cleary come in very fresh. And then the other thing, let's say one of them does go down injured during the finals, the experience and just game time they're getting into Kurt Falls, who also is under a bit of an injury cloud, but should be right to go, if not this week, next week. Him and Sean O'Sullivan, to have 5 weeks together in the back end of a season, that's going to be invaluable should they need to call on them come finals time. So, yeah, while it's not ideal, there's a lot of silver linings to it.
I guess as well, like, I know match fitness is huge, but Cleary's he's suspended. He's not injured, so he doesn't have to rehab anything. Like, Luai probably might struggle to get back into the game a little more than Cleary, but Cleary's their guy, so I think they'll be fine in week one, though, in the finals. You're right, though, about week one, because the team that comes fourth, like that's such a big battle for that bottom, like that third and fourth and fifth position.
And the team they might play, because I'm just looking at the ladder right now, and the only reason I'm concerned is like, look, I just think that the top 8 is so much stronger than it was last year, and the only reason I believe Penrith will be fine, but the concern I have is, let's say week one's a write-off, just because it's the first game back, they haven't played together. So week one, they'll most likely they could play the Storm. Isn't it 1 versus 4?
Yeah, it's 1 versus 4.
So they play the Storm week one, which is like, we all know, regardless of how they're going right now, they can step up to a big challenge. Let's say they lose that, they could play the Roosters the next week. And it's just like, oh shit, you know what I mean? If you went Storm Roosters, it's a fucking risky.
That current top 8 now, there is no gimme. Every single one of those teams on their day can beat Penrith.
And like you obviously say at the moment, Storm are 4th, but mate, honestly, depending on how the next 5 weeks go, they could play anyone from Cronulla to Canberra.
Yeah.
In that spot. Like, this competition is anyone's. They're all so close. Melbourne have a tough run. Like,
I believe this injury has made it basically this is anyone's comp.
Yep. Totally.
Because the reason why I say that is, put it this way, Penrith at full strength win the premiership. Like if Luai and Cleary stay injury free, I cannot see how they would. I personally think they win the comp. Now, obviously other teams would have chances and all that kind of stuff. I just think they've been so better for so long. But with these injuries, like coming straight back into finals footies, first game and this top 8 that is way stronger than it was. Like, imagine if Roosters continue this climb upwards. Like, when you look at that roster, I know losing Lindsay Collins for the rest, or I don't know if he's gone for the rest of the year, but you know, you'd think he's probably gone substantial time. Then you've got Rabbitohs. Then you've got the Eels that have beaten them. The Broncos, you know, they could do it. It's just a scary. It really has opened I think it has opened it up.
I would argue the top 8 is substantially stronger than last year. I think the top 4 is arguably weaker. Last year we had the Bunnies who were pretty relentless. We had the Storm who were relentless. This year you've got Cowboys, Sharks, and then Storm in 4th who are battling a fair bit of late. Yep. So, I mean, that could easily change come finals time. But I think the top 4 last year, even Manly on top of that with Turbo going nuts, was a really strong top 4.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'd agree with that. Like, say the top 4 last year, like, imagine, it's crazy. Like, imagine this Rabbitoh side with the players to the left plus the master coach. It's almost like you look back now and you go, how could we ever have counted them out? And so, I'd agree the top 4 it's still strong, but probably not as strong as last year. But I'd say the top 8 absolutely is stronger. I'll say this final series is much harder.
Well, I mean, take, for example, the Titans last year. They finished 8th. They had a record of 10-14. They had a losing record and they made finals. The Canberra Raiders have a winning record right now and they're not in the 8.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And it's just, when you look at like the Roosters and the footy that the Roosters are playing, and they're sitting 8th, like, it's pretty incredible. And then you're counting the Doggies. Like, if the Doggies hadn't started so poorly, I reckon they'd be in the 8, or at least challenging in the 8.
And also, honestly, I reckon Canberra are a huge shout to make this final series. Their draw is... So they got Penrith this week, but then they got Dragons, Knights, Manly, Tigers.
Fuck.
There's probably never been a better time to play Penrith in Canberra too.
Yeah. And also... don't Roosters have a fucking tough draw?
They have a tough draw, and so does South.
Yeah, okay.
And we'll talk about Roosters soon, but I personally didn't think they looked that great the other night.
Oh, okay.
Realistically.
I thought they looked pretty good, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, wow.
But we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
How do you reckon they look, Timmy? We'll get to it. We'll build suspense.
I'm in between. I mean, they were playing a Manly side without 7 players. I do think people underestimated Manly going into that game, just with the amount of debutants with one crack to impress in the NRL. We know Desi Hasler's the master at getting, basically playing against adversity. I think there's a bit of complacency probably in the Roosters outfit coming up against that side. I was a little bit unimpressed with the Roosters, but I thought just people underestimated Manly. They were always going to live for that game and make a bit of a statement, and they did.
So that's my point. I thought that the Roosters, while not playing their best footy, they controlled the game well, much better than yesteryear. Whereas not yesteryear, sorry, early in the season. I think early in the season they get beaten. Honestly, do. I just think that the second half was a bludger. I thought the first half was really good, especially from the Roosters. And so what I liked about it from Roosters' standpoint was they weren't playing their best footy. They had every reason to be ambushed by a very energetic Manly, but they managed to get the win. And it's always a good sign of a team that, can... it's just a good sign for a team. And I know that the people will say, how can you be satisfied with that? But I just think that people don't... Look at the worst Queensland team in 40 years or whatever. When you look at that on paper, it's it is not the best team. And I think people underestimate, sometimes blokes can just get up and just do something special. And I thought that Manly were actually really good. And I thought they played probably more aggressive than I've seen them play in a long time, except for one moment that we'll talk about in the game. Anyway, we'll get to the game. What do you got there, mate?
I'll just say, just my opinion on that. I think I'm still a little scarred from 2021. And I think maybe it's naive of me to think this, but I just expected the Roosters to destroy them. I thought it was going to be like a 20, 30 point margin. And because they didn't win by that, after the game, I was like, well, the Roosters weren't that good. But that's probably just my naivety coming into it, thinking about last year.
Technically they weren't that good. But what I liked about them was they looked structured. They looked like they created plenty of opportunities. And they got the win against what seemed to looked like an ambush in that first 20 minutes or so. And I also think the first half was good. But I agree with you though, Guru, in the sense of the standard of their footy wasn't great.
I just think at the moment there's too many chefs in the kitchen. They've got Manu trying to roam. They've got Watson coming on and playing 13. They've got Radley at 13. They've got these two halves still trying to sort each other out. They've got Teddy doing everything he possibly can, which I back from Teddy. There's just a lot of moving bodies around that side, which can be lethal at the same time. But
I just think their completion rate fucking killed them. 62% completion. I thought that, I know what you mean. I can definitely tell what you mean, though. And I think we spoke about it last week. I texted you. I was
this is always going to be the worry because they played Newcastle. Newcastle are bang average. It all looked good, but Joey Manu wasn't in that side. So all of a sudden you put Joey in there and now he's roaming through the middle and there's just a lot going on in that side for me.
Yeah. You know what? You could be right. Might have been a pretty poor performance. But I do think the last 4 weeks, I thought they've been pretty good. Even the games they're lost.
Heading in the right direction. There's no doubting that.
I just like the fact that they didn't play good and they managed to get the win. And
I think you're right. I think their best 2 games in the last month have been against Para and Penrith, and they'd lost both those games.
And Penrith, they should have won that game.
They should have beaten Penrith.
Anyway, we'll go more in detail with that, but it's an interesting chat because it's a bit of a tough... They got the win. Yeah.
And we'll know who's right in a month too.
That's for sure. Anyway, back to the suspension. So, we spoke about Cleary and then Penrith leading into it. But, I think it opens everything up. And I just think that, the concern is for the top tier, the top 4 teams is, this bottom 8, it is showing signs of life. Even the Rabbitohs to a degree, I know they lost on the weekend, but they're showing these signs of, fuck, they actually could be a top 4 side if they could just get some consistency going. So look, would we all still have Penrith as favourites?
Yes, well and truly.
Comfortably.
Oh, definitely favourites, yeah.
Okay.
Just not as, not a wink slight dog.
Yeah.
Wink slight dogs.
I wouldn't have them as comfortable favourites right now, but definitely favourites.
Yeah.
Again, the concern for me is just that first 2 weeks. What if they get more injuries going into finals? What if, you know what I mean? To come out in your first game and be week 1 of a final against a team, because that team is sitting there going, this is ambush central. We can ambush these guys. If we ever wanted to play Penrith, it's week 1 of the finals. So yeah, still favourites, but not by anywhere near as much as I had them before.
We were saying the same about Melbourne last year. Melbourne were unbeatable this time last year.
They were.
And they fell
The only
apart.
concern I had about Melbourne last year is they could like come in and out of games like. They were just such a different side to the yesteryear of Melbourne of like a grindy, gritty. I actually thought we saw yesteryear Melbourne on the weekend. A very grindy, gritty, fucking aggressive. Anyway, I'll get to that. Now, onto the match review committee, guys. Nelson Asafa-Solomona gets no weeks and no fine for his the elbow that landed on Egan's head. I want to get your thoughts on this, Guru.
Yeah, I can't believe nothing's come of this. I think Tim's got some stuff he'll read out to us, which is pretty shocking. But I left here on Friday night after watching this game thinking Melbourne are going to lose Nas and they're going to lose Josh King until finals here, essentially. Melbourne might miss the 8. That's what I was looking at their side going, this could fall apart very quickly. To see that neither of them has got anything, I cannot believe it.
Timmy, what do you reckon?
Yeah, so his rap sheet from this year alone, Nelson Asafa-Solomona, round 3, careless high tackle, $1,000 fine. Round 18, careless high tackle, $1,800 fine. Round 19, careless high tackle, $3,000 fine. Round 19, also dangerous tackle, $3,000 fine. Then there was the round 20 incident, and he hasn't been given a week yet. So it's just like becoming a bit of a protected species, and if that's because the judiciary are scared of what they've seen him do over in Bali or whatever it was earlier this season, in that case, and I fully understand, and I wouldn't give him anything either, but that is a lot. And I understand that each incident is individual and like that they're not meant to impact each other, but gee, that's a lot of incidents without getting a fine.
Like we just spoke about, Cleary, how suspensions are meant to change behaviour.
Why would he change his game?
Yeah, that's why would he change what he's doing?
Yeah, look, I love Nelson's aggression. The amount of times he impacts games is honestly countless. Every game he impacts it. I very rarely watch a game where Nelson comes on and he doesn't skittle defenders and all that. So I love his aggression, but honestly, I am shocked that he got nothing because we were giving people suspensions for head highing blokes that slipped into tackles. We were sending people 10 in the bin for that. Now the concern I have about this one is that, regardless of whether he meant it or he didn't, the Melbourne Storm players had full control of Egan's body. Whereas like a head high where a player is running at me and can step left or right, it is the room for error is way bigger because I don't know where they're going. I don't have control of their body. Nelson has hold of him. He can go nowhere. And so all the responsibility of where you land on that person is on you. Even if you unintentionally land somewhere, it is still your responsibility because you have hold of that person. And that's why, for the life of me, how I can't see how he didn't get anything, because we know it was contact to the head. We know the contact was so harsh, it cracked Egan's teeth, reportedly. That's the reports. Apologies if that's wrong. Even if it didn't, let's just say it didn't crack his head. We can see the footage. The elbow landed on his head. So what I don't understand is that we've been going so hard, and there was an article released about how the crackdown on head knocks is working, and then something like this happens where there's clear contact to the head in a controlled environment, gets 0 fine, 0 anything.
If Egan didn't come back and play and he was out for 6 weeks, which could have quite possibly happened, I'd be shocked if Nas doesn't get something then.
How does Dale Finucane get 2 weeks for an accidental head clash where they are both running at each other like super quick, where the room for the margin for error is tiny because it's so hard to tell where someone's going to go? An accidental head clash, and when you drop your elbow, like whether it was accident or not, you had control of the player. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. I just do not understand it. And on top of that, Waddell gets 5 weeks for an alleged eye gouge. Josh King, whether he intentionally did or not, still grabbed around the eyes. Like, there is video footage, and he gets nothing. Like, are you telling me there's 5 weeks difference between Josh King and Waddell's eye grabbing? I don't think there is. Like, I think both players didn't actually intend to gouge eyes. But if you're going to give Waddell 5 weeks, you have to give King some time at the very minimum. Because even though he didn't mean it, he still grabbed his face and pulled. Just like Waddell grabbed his face and pulled. Like, I don't It makes no sense.
Mate, if we got in here and Josh King and Nas both got 1 week, I think I'd feel the same. I cannot believe that they aren't facing weeks on the sideline.
Like, what sucks is it's so unbelievable. It starts making me think, look, is it because they've had 15 or 16 injuries? Like, is it because they're so decimated with injury that they can't afford to have more people sit out because they're literally pulling people from reserve grade? Is that the reason? Because in no world is that not at least a few weeks. Like, in no world.
I think Canterbury, like, they should be reaching out for an explanation.
100% they should be. Like, it makes zero sense. Zero sense. And I can understand, like, why some fans like Melbourne are protected species, because when you see stuff like this, whilst your player is sitting on the sidelines, you're going, how does that make sense? Explain how you've come to that answer with a logical, reasonable way. It just doesn't, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. I don't get it. And the worst thing is you know what? The news cycle, in a week's time, we won't even be talking about it. And they'll just move on from it. And Nas and that will go out and play next week and play really well, as he does every week. Josh King will be, an absolute, work his ass off as he does every week. Huge fans of the way, they play. But those two incidents, unfortunately, they're suspension incidents.
If Canterbury was higher, a few wins up the ladder, which they're probably unlucky not to be, in my opinion, Corey Riddell for 5 weeks, like, that would have got so much more attention than what it did.
Yeah, because if
his team was still relevant and they were in finals contention, I just imagine the story if it was any other back rower if it was Sean Lane, Kickow, any of these other boys that got 5 weeks that their team is still relevant and in finals, and Josh King gets nothing. Yeah,
it's bizarre. It is absolutely bizarre, and I can understand why fans are pissed off at it. It just makes zero sense.
Yeah, and I don't think Josh King did it on purpose, but I don't think Corey Waddell did either.
Yeah, both of them. And look, I'm okay if you want to say, Nelson didn't mean to land on his head, but he meant to land on his body. If you want to say that, fine. That's irrelevant in my eyes. In both cases, both cases were contact to the head. One, contact to the eyes and pulling towards him, so pulling in, and then there was contact to the head. Like, the intention behind it is almost irrelevant, because we've got the answer in front of us of, like, they had control of the player and there was contact to the head. Anyway, I don't get it. So really disappointing. Again, another one, Hargreaves. How Hargreaves only gets a fine. You can break someone's jaw by putting that much force on their jaw like that. Again, there was an article that came out where V'landys were saying, it's down this percent and our crackdown's working. And then Hargreaves gets a fine, and you're sitting there going, so all of these times we've had players suspended for minimal contact to the head when a player is slipping in a tackle, and then there is intentional head contact, and it's nothing. Like, doesn't make any sense.
And the average rugby league fan will once again say, relevant team.
Yeah. Roosters and Storm, two of the big dogs in the competition. Really disappointing. And you know what? Like what's ironic is, like, I get where Hargreaves is coming from, in the sense that I came through rugby league when, like, you'd have your fingers stepped on, and, as the young winger that was contracted to a Broncos thing, if you're playing Q Cup, the old guys, they would rough you up. Like, so it's not like I'm not aware that sometimes enforcers need to rough up the smaller guys. But in today's game, if we're trying to protect our young players especially, a legend, like, it's Fulton we're talking about here. We're talking about a Fulton. You know what I mean? And he doesn't get any, like, it's just like, oh yeah, who cares? It doesn't add up to me. It doesn't add up. I will say, though, I love Fulton. I thought he was a goer. I thought he was a real goer. And I would be surprised if he doesn't fight his way on the bench there. I thought he was a real goer. Also, I wanted to talk about, now I've forgotten. We haven't got it here. So, 2 hip drop-ish tackles. The Tarpaner one. Now, nothing happened to the Tarpaner one. Now, obviously, Tarpaner got sent in the bin for throwing a punch. Paddy Carrigan, I'm not sure. Could you check on what the weeks are? I read 2 to 3. Look, I love Paddy, and I think we can all agree, just a mistake. He was fatigued, and he's just gone back to an old technique that shouldn't be in there. But he should get minimum 4 weeks. Minimum 4 weeks. And I love Paddy Carrigan. He is incredible. And this is a Bronco fan.
I don't think I've really seen this before for one of these tackles, but it's been referred straight to the judiciary.
Yeah, okay. Well, I
that's
think
easy.
we've had that earlier in the year, actually. Barnett was straight to the judiciary.
Yeah, it was too.
Honestly, minimum 4 weeks. And seriously, if they went as high as 6, I wouldn't be against it.
You got to get it out.
Yep.
You got to go harsh. This is what we spoke about at the start of the year with the cannonball tackle. I didn't think they went harsh enough on it at the start of the season. I think we saw Liam Knight's season finish a few weeks ago. I think, unfortunately for Carrigan, I think that they've got to go hard on him because we just can't have it.
I know Booth's tackle was technically legal because he hit him above the knee, but it's like Tarpany was like literally standing there, couldn't move. And he had 2 guys on top of him. Like that tackle needs to be outlawed from the game.
What I'm not understanding about it is like, if we get rid of that tackle, it actually promotes the chances of big fellas offloading more. So it actually speeds the game up, is what we want. Timmy, what do you think about that, the Paddy Carrigan?
The whole hip drop intrigues me because it's seemingly come from nowhere the last few years. Like when did we first hear about a hip drop tackle?
Well, it was in the game, but people weren't aware of it.
Yeah. So why do we think that is? Like, I know I'm with you. Like,
Just
it was
wrestling techniques.
It was bad. Yep. But like the way they're going in there, like that's not a wrestling technique where they're going and taught to just drop by the hip.
That is like a jiu-jitsu wrestling technique to get someone to the ground.
Ugh. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
And I think also because like as the game moves more to wrap the ball up, and legs tackles aren't promoted.
They don't go down.
So they're standing constantly. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's either a wrestling or a jiu-jitsu. I'm pretty sure it's wrestling. Way to get someone to the ground.
Yeah, and that's it. Like it's always, as you said, about wrapping the ball up, especially with the size of some of these boys, Joey Tapney being one of them with the great offload. Wrap that ball up and just wait, make it as slow as you can for that person to come in. And that's obviously, it's more, also in the Carrigan example, the third bloke would come in and you grab them low waist and then pull down to the hips and then drop them. But it's a fine line, and we saw
just all levers. It's all just like putting pressures on levers. So you're putting pressure on the back of their knee so they have to fall. But as we saw, for example, I'm not, I haven't wrestled in forever, but the difference between wrestling training and footy training is like when you're wrestling someone, it's one-on-one. So if you do the hip drop, it's very easy for them to usually pull their legs out from them. Whereas on a footy field, they got studs in, they got players holding them. So yeah, as a Broncos man and a Broncos fan and a Paddy Carrigan fan, 4 to 6 weeks minimum. Anything less is outrageous in my opinion.
The Tapney one was bullshit as well. Like that's something that needs proper attention because he came in Booth for that tackle. By the letter of the law, as Maddie said, he hit the hammies and there's nothing wrong with it. But that is so dangerous. Like that could just be that's an ACL waiting to happen.
It did Liam Knight.
Oh, exactly right.
Yeah.
And it's just so the refereeing and the way they handled it was unfortunately correct.
Yeah.
I mean, Joey Tapney fired up and threw a bit of a punch there, and again, rightly so, got 10 minutes. And like the fact that the Raiders were disadvantaged by it, like at least 10 each way because it's so dangerous.
This is just off the top of the dome of like ways we can fix it. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of holes in it. But I honestly think they need to keep it has to be above the knee, but almost like, again, this is a massive grey area, but almost like if you are going to do that, you need to come in slowly and just grab the legs. And you know what I mean? Any force, like any trying to hit through, boom, immediately penalised. Like I would be okay if they penalised the Tarpany one straight away.
I like that. And it is a little subjective. It's a little bit grey, but you can go in. That's another thing. Like players are taught to go, once they're held up top, you only need to go in and basically lasso their legs, and then the blokes on top can put them wherever they want.
Yep. And if they can't...
But you're right, when they go in at speed like that one, that's where the danger happens. And so I think that is something that a referee can adjudicate on and have a decent opinion on whether they've gone in with force or whether they've gone just to tie the legs up. So I like it.
I would just say your only thing you can do is tie the legs up, and then it is the people up top's job to get them to the ground. If they don't, you lose the tackle. They get momentum. They're a big, strong ball carrier. That's part of their. And again, I understand there's going to be grey areas, but I would literally be teaching players you run up, you stop, and then you wrap their legs. That's what I'd be trying to teach.
And the defending team gets the same result. They still completely control it and put them wherever they want, turn them around, face the line the opposite way. It works. I think it's a great call.
Because got to get rid of it. Oh man, it is honestly, it's worse than head highs for me. It really is, because it just so dangerous, and it's the issue that I have with it is that like it's a taught technique. Whereas unless it's an obvious swinging arm, head highs are always accidental. Like they're always accidental, unless there's like a 1% that aren't. So yeah, got to get rid of it, man. Got to get rid of it. So hopefully, the tough thing is we need to sort out our match review community, but I feel like it's needed to be sorted out for a substantial amount of time. And so I kind of feel a bit hopeless about it all. You know what I mean? Like, what can we do?
If we're here in 10 years having the same conversations, anyone going to be fucking shocked?
And so it's like we've been having these conversations for 10 years. I don't know how to fix it, so it's easy for me to sit here and judge the NRL and say they're doing this wrong or that wrong. But I personally don't know how you fix it because there's so many ways it's going to get. And
I think I say it quite often, but like the beauty of our game is that there is so many grey areas, which makes it so exciting. But it is our greatest downfall, and I think it's also pretty evident that we're shocking at dealing with grey areas.
Like this like Nas one, the King one, the Hargreaves one, it just boggles my mind.
And I'm also not putting them in the category of grey areas too. I just think this is a bed shit.
Yeah, that's just a massive bed shit. Yeah, so look, hopefully it gets sorted. Look, put it this way, I think that hip drop tackle should be like priority number one right now. I just got to get rid of it. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Anyway, now, on to Team of the Week. Brought to you by Bloke Jumpers. Go to bloke.shop, grab a jumper. Or brought to you by Bloke Beer. Grab a case of Bloke in a Bar from your local. We are in every single Celebrations, Bottle-O, Porter's Liquor, and IGA Plus Liquor in New South Wales and ACT. And we're also in every single Celebrations Superstore in Queensland, plus a bunch of other stores in Queensland. Go to our website, check out the store locator, and grab a case of the beautiful nectar that is Bloke in a Bar. It's what keeps the lights on, guys. Keeps the lights on. Now, Team of the Week. I've got Scotty Drinkwater at number one. I got my main man, Karaz. Seriously, I love this bloke. He's probably, I'm trying to think, but at the very least, he's one of my favourite new players of the season.
He's one of the best narratives of this year.
Fucking so good. And we know how much we love narrative on this podcast.
Narrative.
We love narrative on this podcast. What would rugby league be without narrative? Narrative and culture is the two things that we love on this podcast. And saying a play could be anything. Joey Manu at number 3. I thought he was fantastic for the Roosters. I understand that there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but I thought the Roosters' first half especially was really strong. They actually scored all of their tries in the first 28 minutes, sorry. So it's just that last 60 that was terrible. Well, not terrible, but not great. Talakai at 4, I thought he was really strong. The Fox at number 5, seriously, he's just getting better and better.
How unlucky was he not to score 4 tries?
Honestly.
I couldn't believe he didn't cross yesterday.
He's seriously, when I think about a winger impacting a club, they don't come to mind. I'm trying to think of a winger that's gone to a club and changed it. I think the Fox might have had the most impact a winger has ever had at a club.
I think it's fair.
And I'd love, leave in the comments section. If you are listening to this audio, go to our YouTube, hit subscribe, leave in the comments section if there has been a winger that has impacted a club more than the Fox. Adam Dewey at 6, he broke me wee little heart, but I thought he was outstanding. And I tell you what, they need him. Whatever they need to pay him to keep him, they need to pay him to keep him. Because the only way they're ever going to play a finals footy is with Dewey leading them. Nico Hines, hot boy Hines, seriously dripping in testosterone. Hair was absolutely beautiful with that match-winning field goal. Plus, talk about one of the buys of the season. Seriously incredible. Tarpana at 8. I thought Verrills, obviously we had Marnie was really, really good on the weekend, but I liked Verrills. I thought he was really, really good. Got through a bunch of work, and I think he's really starting to find his feet after being injured. Where have we got? We got 46 tackles, only 1 miss, and 81 metres. So, yeah, I'm really liking Verrills' progression. But outside of that, I thought Marnie was fantastic. Papali'i at 10. Actually, I think that's the wrong... Yeah, it's the wrong Papali'i. But anyway, we'll put him there. Isaiah Papali'i,
Not
absolutely.
a bad pick still.
Yeah, he could be 10. I had Young at 11. I had Nanai at 12. I had Taumalolo at 13. I had Pole at 14. Is it Pole or is it Pole? I
think it's Pole.
Bole. Yeah, so I'll Bole. Apologies for getting that wrong. Jackie Whiten at 15. Cam McInnes at 16. Vaughan at 17 and Hastings at 18.
I had Drinky at 1, same as you. Then I had Kiraz, and I had Edward Cossey on my wing. Last time he played Melbourne, that honestly might have been the worst game by a winger of all time. For him to bounce back and score 3, I thought that was a really good knock. I was worried his career might be over after that game, so well done to him. Joey Manu at centre. I thought Aaron Schopp did a tremendous job on Dane Gagai. I think every time he takes on a rep centre, he's doing a number on him at the moment, Schopp. I had Dewey and Hines in my halves. Joey Tapane, and I had Totola from South Sydney in my front row. Reid Marnie at 9. Hudson Young and Nanai pick themselves. I had Cam McInnes at 13. Then my bench, I had Whiten, Toby Rudolph, Taumalolo, and I thought Tino was good for the Titans once again.
What do you have, Timmy?
Drinky at fullback, Cossey and Karaz on the wings, Timoko and Manu in the centres, Dewey and Jerome Hughes in the halves. I found halfback pretty tough this week, not a lot of standout performances. Tapani and Bolo in the front row, Reid Marnie at 9, Dalian back row of the Hudson Young at 11 next to Jeremiah Nanai, Jason Taumalolo at 13, and then my bench was Whiten, Andrew Fafita, who was superb, Bowie Fermor and Papali'i of the Isaiah variety.
Isaiah. I actually had Totola in my team of the week, so that's strange that as a Rabbitohs man, Matty, you didn't have him in there.
That might have, that might have been a oversight on my.
Yeah, so Totola for 10, and I'll just put Papali'i.
I thought I did put that there. I must have just. I did it last night, and I was,
Tired?
Oh, moving house all day is fucking Anyway,
lay off the spin classes, bro.
Why did you go to a spin class when you had to move house the next day?
Now, on to the games. Is there any... I feel like there's been more news than that on the weekend. Was there any... I feel like there was more... Anyway, we'll get to it.
I mean, outside of, I guess, Moses, but I thought we'd talk about it in this game.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Anyway, Manly versus the Roosters. So look, I agree with you guys. Like, the standard Roosters played wasn't great, but I just like the fact that they got the win against a valiant Manly. And also, I did think that their first half was pretty good. I thought their first half was pretty good. I will say, major talking points. Cleary, that forward pass he got ruled against him was fucking outrageous. Do you remember that play?
Yeah.
It was so obviously backwards. Like, I cannot even... I didn't even think it floated forward. Like, anyway. So this game... Look, I actually think Manly were outstanding. I really do. For the squad that they had, I thought they took it to the Roosters. I thought the Roosters... Although I agree that there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen, I think they are absolutely getting closer and closer to a really smooth experience in terms of their attack. Sam Walker at 7, I think he's got to stay there. I think Cleary's got to stay. Well, Cleary at 6, but I can't see a world in which Sam Walker moves from that 7 spot anytime soon. Outside of that, Manu was incredible. What do you think about the game?
So what major talking point? What about the return of the mousetrap?
Oh, yeah, from
How
DC
good.
and...
I think it was Ruben Garrett.
Ruben Garrett, yeah.
Unreal to see. Yeah, mate, I think that the Roosters have found the set of combos that is going to be successful now. I just think that it's a matter of putting it all together and making it work. And, I mean, yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's round 21 next week. Like, they are running out of time to get it together. That's my only worry with this Rooster side. I almost think there's so many talented guys in this team that you're trying to get them all on the stage at once. And I think they're just finding it hard to work out how it's done. I mean, they went into that game on the weekend with Radley at 13, Watson on the bench, Verrill starting, and Drew Hutchinson on the bench as well. And then you're trying to fit Joey Manu from right centre over here. You look at Sawali, he got a heap less touches this game because, a great point that you always make, because Manu was in field. It sort of stifled their attack on the right edge a little bit. I'm worried about how it's all working there with the Roosters. I am a big fan of this roaming centre and bringing Joey Manu into it, but I thought it was pretty evident the other night, as you always say, that it kind of fucked up their right-hand side attack a little bit. And I just feel like they're all struggling to find their place within this side.
Yeah, for sure. No, I like... When you got two people roaming, like Tedesco does enough work for two people. So like it's almost like he's going to do enough work for another roaming centre as well. So the Joey Manu situation is so tough. I still really like him at 6 because then that keeps that centre out on the thingo. But obviously you've got Cleary there. I don't know. I think that we're probably going to find a situation where Joey Manu's numbers will come back down. And they'll have set plays maybe, or they'll just to get it out of his system, just get Teddy and just say, Teddy, just step out this set. because I feel like I know people put shit on me for saying it, but I feel like they're so close. They're so close to getting it right. So close.
And if their coach was just about anyone else, I'd be really worried, to be honest with you. That's the one sort of saving grace. You look at Joey Manu on the weekend. I went through his numbers when playing. I think when he played fullback and 5'8", he had like 45 to 50 touches of the ball, which was just insanity. Playing at centre, I think he's averaged about 16 touches a game. He had 25 the other night.
Yeah.
So as much as he has roamed throughout the year, it's definitely lifted. And the amount of think about the amount of times they actually went out to the right-hand side. They pretty much didn't. They threw one cutout ball to Suwali because he's a freak, almost scored off, but it was never on.
Yeah,
it was never on because they had numbers on that edge because Manu's in field. So I think on the days when it works, it's going to be sensational. It's going to be great, and there's days where you'll play Newcastle on these sort of sides, but I just think they're running out of time to get it sorted.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I'm a little bit the same. Like, they're clearly a vastly improved team in the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks, the Roosters. And we've said all season, we know they're going to click, but do they have enough time? Do they have enough time? We're getting really close to finals footy, aren't we? They're still pushing to make finals footy. And it's funny that we're talking about a team, borderline making the top 8 as being title threats, but we know that that's how good they can be if things do come together. I think they'll run out of time. I'm with Guru. I think there are a few too many chefs in the kitchen. If Trent Robinson can ever get the perfect balance between all these players, it's just going to make for the most wonderful footy team to watch.
Yeah.
But, geez, it's a hard job to get it done. I just wanted to touch on, which I do most weeks because I love the bloke, but Jimmy Tedesco. There was a moment, I don't know if it was a minute to go in the first half or a minute into the second half. My drunken notes say, Teddy minute, I'm first half left, so I'm not sure which side of the half it was. But he took a run, got tackled, Verrills scooted, Teddy backed up from his own play the ball, caught a pass from Verrills, ran, passed, the bloke, I think it was the centre or someone, got tackled, and then Teddy scooted again. That's in the space of, 2 tackles basically.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yeah. He's just, honestly, it's out of this world. It's seriously out of this world. Thoughts on the Lindsay Collins situation? Now, do you, if you were a coach, do you feel he should just sit the rest of the season out?
I think he probably should. Yeah, and once again, no expert, no doctor in any way, shape or form, but my vibe is that this is getting pretty worrying. I get I get a similar vibe when I look at KP. I guess it's hard for the Roosters, whilst you've got Takiaho out and your other guys are getting a little bit older. The temptation is there to keep him going. Because at the end of the day, you can do whatever the fuck with your centre, your 5'8", your halfback. If your forwards aren't winning the middle in this competition, you're cactus. Doesn't matter what you do anywhere else. He's obviously a state of origin calibre front row forward. So I think for the sake of Lindsay Collins, they probably should sit him. But it'd be a harder decision to make if I was Trent Robinson.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
What's his concussion history prior to the Origin knockout?
I think he's had 3 this year.
Yeah,
And that's including the Origin knockout.
And that one on the weekend was a bad one.
That was a real bad one.
worrying.
Well, maybe, as I said, I think Enric Physio always says that each case is so unique and there's no consistency in any of them. So, maybe it's a case of hoping, giving him a month off, hoping they get to finals and trying to bring him back for maybe week 1 finals. But I suppose it all depends on how he comes out of this one.
Yeah. And knowing the history of the Roosters, they are normally pretty cautious.
Yeah.
This sort of stuff.
I will say the Roosters, once he went off, it's pretty much that was after that they didn't score. I'm pretty sure. So he went off the 27th minute, and they scored the 28th, and then after that didn't score. That's how important he is, in my opinion, to the squad.
Geez, that Matty Lodge signing looks better and better by the day, doesn't it?
So Collins' history with concussions, it wasn't at the start of this year, it was the start of last year, but that one was the one where, I don't know if you remember, but he had to get taken off in a Medicab. It was so serious. So that's his 3rd really bad major concussion in about 18 months.
Okay, so he's only had 2 this year?
2 this year, according to the 2 articles I've read, and 1 last year, but all 3 of them were pretty hectic.
I'm trying to think of the Origin one.
In game 3.
Yeah, what was it again? What happened?
In Origin?
Yeah.
That was the first couple of minutes.
It was early, but what happened?
I think, did he knock himself out?
Yeah, it was in a tackle.
Was it
he
Paddy
was defending,
Carrigan
wasn't
winged
it?
around or something like that?
Yeah.
I think he came in
It's friendly
from the
fire,
side.
wasn't it, I think?
Did he hit Carrigan's hip or something?
Yeah, it was a bit of friendly.
So too. Okay, well, so fuck, that's a hard one.
In saying that, these articles haven't told me if he's had HIA tests or whatever. These are just the ones he's been ruled out for.
The big ones.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I could have sworn he's been
You're probably right. I'll keep
had HIAs before. I could have sworn. Anyway, yeah. Look, whatever is best for the player. Seriously, if they, I personally would probably just sit him out for the rest of the year. He's a relatively young front rower. I think he's only like 25, 26. You know, got plenty of footy left in him. You know, although I personally still think Roosters could go on a run and win the premiership. Is this a year where I'm, confident of that? Like super confident? Probably not. So if you're Trent, do you go, look, maybe this year just isn't our year? I mean, obviously you don't think that, but when the decision making comes and you go, is it worth risking this guy's health for a most likely no premiership? Like it'd be different if, I don't know, they were flying and he was so key and then after he leaves, they're not going well and then he needs to get him back into the side. Yeah, such a tough one. Whatever is best for Lindsay, seriously, whatever is best for him. I'd err on the side of caution, though.
Because he's also he's going to be so important to this Roosters side over the next 5 or 6 years. Takiaho's leaving. Ria Hargraves, he might play another year, 2 years at max, I would say. He's going to be the alpha in this football team moving forward. So.
Yeah, for sure. Tough one. Really tough one. Hope he's all good. Seriously, I hope he's all good. Outside of that, look, it was if I'm being honest, I kind of felt like the Manly forward pack was better. Like I actually think Manly played fantastically. Like really, really good. And that's why I don't mind the Roosters' performance. I think people are underestimating how well Manly played. Like I thought they played really, really well. What do you got there?
I was just going to say about the Roosters' complacency. Like I'm never going to sit here and call a team complacent of something that's baseless. But just I listened to Trent Robinson's press conference and it seemed like he kind of implied that, because he said something along the lines of, we cared about every play, but we didn't care about the next 5 minutes. The end of our sets, they dominated, like they were so much better. And to me, that says that like they were trying to score off every play and probably not respecting the opposition for what they were. So I feel Trent Robinson probably does think they might have been a little bit complacent.
Yeah, I'd agree with his summation. Like they had plenty of opportunities, but it was just like too many, too quickly. It's weird because I don't feel like they were ever looked like that they were going to lose the match. But in saying that, I was really impressed with Manly. Honestly, I was really, really impressed with Manly. The only one thing I was surprised at, it was like when Hargreaves had the elbow on Fulton's head, like no one came in and arced up. And it's like an unwritten rule. Your front row forwards, stick up for your little fellas. And I was a bit surprised by that. I think in those situations, regardless, you've got to at least go in and push and shove. Unless I'm forgetting, like, did you guys see any arc up?
It's something that I didn't think about at the time, to be honest with you. But now that I think back to it, I don't recall.
I don't like any of the... Because, like, it's one thing... Like, if this little play gets head high, then okay, the boys arc up. But it's like an intentional staunching of someone... I don't know. I was just surprised that they didn't go in there.
Might have been the ultimate respect to Fulton.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they're just like, he can handle himself. He'll be right. But anyway, so look, Roosters, I say it every week. Well, not every week. I went off it for a bit, but I'm going to say it again. They'll get there. They'll get there. I don't know if they'll win, but I think they're going to get it fixed before.
It's a really interesting time in the career of Trent Robinson. Obviously, I'd argue 2016 by far and away the biggest challenge of his career. But right now, this is a real test because he's got the tools there. It's just about making it work, which will be like there's no reason why this team shouldn't be relevant come finals time, but it's going to be a real test for him.
He's honestly in this weird position where he's almost got too many good backs and not enough big forwards.
You're trying to get everyone in the spotlight. Like I personally think the Watson and Radley thing. Like I think that when the Roosters are at their best, Radley is playing 13, and he's controlling the ruck there.
But Watson's been outstanding when he comes on, though.
He has been, but Watson's similar to Teddy and Manu as well. He's very erratic in what he does, which can be hard to defend. But you just said then, Manly played well. Yeah, fair call, they did. But for the Roosters to win a comp in the next few months, a lot of teams are going to play fucking well.
Yeah, it's a good point. You might be right on this one, boys. You might be right on this one. You might be right. Roosters may have been underwhelming, and I've got me Trent Robinson goggles on and just backing the boys in. I just love
Which has paid dividends before numerous times, by the way. Like, it's not like you're on a bad run.
No, I'm definitely picking up what you're putting down. You've made some extremely good points. I'll have to go into the den and meditate on this one, boys.
You see who they play this week?
Who do they play?
Brisbane.
Oh, fuck.
Fuck.
They played shit. They played shit, mate. Too many cooks in the
Fucking
kitchen,
hacks.
mate. They are fucked. End of set. Roosters, pack her up. You're doing nothing. The boys are coming, bouncing back off a terrible loss. Interesting times. Now, on to Manly. A crazy week. Crazy week for all the wrong reasons. We wish it wasn't crazy. I think Manly fans should be incredibly proud of the 17 blokes that played on the weekend. I thought they ripped and teared as hard as they could. I thought they did everything. They did not go into that game going, we've lost this because we're missing half our side. Like, they're literally missing half their side. I thought they were incredible. I thought Alfred Smalley had one of the great debuts for a bloke that's come out of nowhere. And he's got one of the great names too, Alfred Smalley. How good's that? I thought Garrick tried his absolute heart out. I thought Foran had one of his better games. You know, what I love about Foran is, like, whenever the going gets tough, Foran's there. Like, you know, he's always there. I thought Jake Travojevic was fantastic, like really, really good. 146 metres, 35 tackles, 0 misses as usual. I thought Bullymore may have fought his way into a bench spot. I was really impressed with Zach Fulton. I thought that he was had a lot of mongrel about him. I thought that he didn't take a backward step at no point. I think Manly fans should be incredibly proud, and I think that you may have picked up a few little smokies that'll be added to the squad. So, for example, Alfred Smalley, like, tell me he shouldn't be in a first grade squad somewhere. Bullymore, I think he should be in that side week in, week out. Timmy, what do you think about Manly?
Yeah, it was, Jakey Trbojevic post-game said that Pio Secchi, the boys met Pio 2 days before the game for the first time. That shows what they underwent this week. And it was just a classic Desi Hasler mentality, wasn't it? The adversity's against them. They lifted for it, put in a fantastic performance. Like, Manly fans, for the week that was, should be so proud of the 17 that were out there and the way they played. And there's a lot of split opinions about how Manly are going to come out of this as a club in the run to the finals. And it's off the back of Desi Hasler that I think, you know what, they can still make a run and hold it together and compete for a top 8 spot. I could be completely wrong. They could fold and go to water, but I think Desi will continue to get them up, and I think they can finish strong, especially with they've got a soft draw home. So,
mate, I totally agree. I think Desi Hasler, I spoke about it quite a lot on this podcast, but I think Desi Hasler's coaching ability doesn't get enough respect. When you look at his coaching career, when you look at the fact when he took over Manly, he was 15th. Like, that the club was in shambles. Like, they had coaches wanting to leave because their facilities were so bad. I think Desi's... I put it this way. When he took over the Bulldogs and when he made those grand finals, I think it was like the first year he was there and then had 1 year off and then he made it again. People were talking about him in the same breath as the guys like Wayne Bennett, Craig Bellamy. Like, he was considered a super coach. And then everything happened at the Bulldogs. Whoever you want to blame or whatever, I tend to err on the side of, I think Desi has proven it wasn't his fault. But if you have a different opinion, that's fine. I think even with the squad he's got now, like, you know, imagine if this squad had Tom Trbojevic in it. Like, imagine what they'd be doing right now with Tom Trbojevic in this squad. Desi Hasler is an unbelievably good coach, and I agree with you. I think if nearly any other coach was in this position, they'd probably just completely fall apart. I think he keeps them together, and I think they become a massive challenge for other people trying to make the 8. What do you got there?
Just on Desi, I'll go even further back. So he joined Manly as coach in 2004. So he's pretty much done this twice, because in 2003 they came 14th, and then before that was the Northern Eagles fiasco. His first year they came 13th, but he pretty much blew up the club, replaced everyone, trying to get them back on track. Then in 2005 they made the finals. In 2006 they made the semis. In 2007 they made the grand final. 2008 they won. 2011 they won. Then he went to the Bulldogs, made 2 premierships, and then came back to Manly and pretty much has done that again.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
It's right there.
Like, he is an unbelievable coach.
And like, just those early days that Matty was talking about, like 05 was when he went and got Ben Kennedy. And he talked to anyone at Manly, that's what turn the entire franchise around, just having him in the building. I think it's also undervalued that, like, you look at the last years in rugby league, I would say the position that's changed the most has been the lock forward. It's gone from extra front rower to your ball playing 13. Desi was doing this in 13, 14. Just no one else emulated it at that point.
Yeah.
Like, you look at what he did with that pack with James Graham and
Well, you know
all
what's
those
funny?
guys.
Is so when I was at the like playing for the Dragons reserve grade side, we would look at the Bulldogs and be like, see how these Bulldogs forwards are passing and getting like one on the edge, like getting extra players, and we were trying to emulate that kind of play style, and it was Desi's play style of getting ball playing forwards. So you're 100% right.
And like, it's sort of just, and then, you know, your Melbourne and these sort of teams dominated for the next few years, and it flew under the radar again. Like, you look at the premiership winning sides between then and when the Roosters started doing it with Victor Radley and Isaiah Yeo bursting on the scene, they're all, you know, your Paul Gallen, just like an extra sort of front rower. All these teams had similar sort of guys, Sam Burgess, etc. But yeah, I don't think he gets anywhere near enough credit.
Yeah.
In fact, I think people highlight the perceived negatives way too much than the positives.
100%. And we've been over it before in regards to the. Let's say you take out that last year of the Bulldogs, we'd be talking about fucking one of the great coaches. Like, you know, yeah. No, I think Desi. I don't think he gets enough raps for doing what he does. Like, I really don't think he. Just every time I think Manly are down and out, they come out and play mad. Like, look at DCE's resurgence in his career. You know, that has a lot to do with Desi. And to be fair, the years where DCE, where I was sitting there going, oh, we might be, you know, not done, but not reaching the heights we all knew we could reach. You know, that's when Desi wasn't at the club. Ever since Desi's been back there, he's been fucking amazing. Like, yeah, look, so much respect. Outside of that, I want to give my man Andrew Davies a shout out for running one of the great lines on the edge there for a try.
He does it most weeks.
He's got
incredible.
He's one of the best line runners in the comp. Seriously, he reminds me a lot of Boyd Cordner. Remember when Boyd Cordner first came in? He would run the lines of doom, like absolute death lines, where the half's sitting there going, bye shoulder, it's gone, it's gonna get ripped off its fucking bone.
He was still a fucking teenager.
Mate, mate. Boyd Cordner doesn't get enough love. Seriously. Captained New South Wales to back-to-back wins after that, you know, really dominant era from Queensland. Captained back-to-back Roosters wins. Was there for the 2013 grand final win for the Roosters.
Shouldn't have been there in 2013 and was just so tough that he forced his way into it.
Yeah, the doctor said 12 weeks he was out. He came back in 6 or some shit.
He told Robbo he was going to do it.
Yeah, amazing. It honestly... And also, like, if you go back, and Roosters fans will know this, but any other non-Roosters fan, go back and watch all those grand finals and big moments. Guess who was the man that took the tough carry against the Raiders to get them off their line, that gave them a quick play the ball to match winner? Yep. It was Boyd Cordner. Guess who the bloke was that took the tough carry in Origin 2019, I think. Queensland looked like they were swarming, coming back as we always do. Then Boyd Cordner takes this fucking hit up out of nowhere. Boom. There's a try from Teddy. All comes from the quick play the ball. He's fucking amazing. Seriously.
Did you remember that quick play the ball in the 2019 grand final?
Do you want a black eye?
Actually, that means in 2019 he broke out twice. No, sorry. So you're a New South Welshman, so he gave me one back. Yeah, jeez. I didn't even think of that. My bad. Sorry, Timmy.
Trying to turn a Blues triumph into something.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, so he doesn't get enough props. Outside of that, big news. Martin Tapau apparently, allegedly, reportedly on the grapevine. It seems to be true because Brad Arthur has basically come out and said we want him. It's up to Manly. So, you know, I don't think Brad Arthur's coming out and saying that unless it was true.
The deadline's today, so it should be confirmed.
Deadline
soon.
from Para?
The August 1 deadline.
August 1.
Yeah.
Because when it happened, I was like, fuck, of all weeks to come out and fucking release that. Thoughts on Martin Tapau potentially going to the Eels?
Yeah, I think it might be time for a change of scenery for Marty. I don't think we've seen his best out of him for the last probably 2 years. Would that be fair? Like, we know what he's capable of doing.
Yeah,
he's had little flashes.
You know what? When him and Adam Fanua-Blake were playing together, they were arguably the two best in the comp. But I'd agree with you. Last 2 years, he's probably just been solid without being bad.
And I think it'd be unreal for him to arrive at Parramatta and he wouldn't have to be the forward. He could just come off the bench and, you know.
How do they afford him, though?
Fuck, God knows.
Do you reckon he's taking a massive pay cut? Surely.
I don't understand it. I mean, great pickup. for Parramatta if they get him, especially as like an X factor off the bench with his offloading game. But why do they need him? Like, they've got Campbell Gillard, Borlo, both offloading forwards, Maddo who plays in the middle, Papali'i who can play in the middle. Like, do they need another middle
And your
forward?
other guys like Kafusi, Makatoa, like they've all been solid.
Like, yeah.
I think if you watch Eels games closely, when RCG and Polo come off, they lose a lot through the middle. And so I think he's being signed as that crazy rotation of like, we don't lose that much when we take off RCG and Polo.
Great signing, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, look, and if he's all in, if he's on board with the Eels and what the Eels want to do, and I think it's a great sign.
You look at Parramatta trying to get him, who don't really need him, but will make great use of him. What about the Melbourne Storm? Like another middle forward for the run home,
mate.
How good would he be there?
They desperately could use him. Another like with Lindsay Collins out, I wonder if Roosters reach out. Because I think the Roosters are a bit light on forwards.
It all obviously depends, to state the obvious, but just roster spots and whether they can make it happen. So because they've already got Lodge, maybe they don't have another spot on there.
Yeah.
Again, with the Storm, whether I'm not sure if they do or don't, but maybe with sort of a few players gone for the season, they do. I don't know, but geez, he looks a good fit down there.
What do you guys think about the transfer system? It's a real confusing one because, so for example, the Melbourne Storm have gone out and gotten David Nofoaluma. And obviously the Tigers have to agree to this, so it's fine. But outside looking in, let's say they've got to pay him $100K for the rest of the year or something. You could make the argument that they may have that money left because they didn't use that spot up. So, for example, they may have a minimum 125 grand spot, and maybe the salary cap works differently, but I'm just going off layman's. So they had a 125 grand spot that wasn't taken. No one played it in all year, and so when they get to the end of the season, they still have 125 grand. I assume, unless the NRL say, nah, you've got to by the time you get to the end of the year, you've only got 1/4 of that or whatever. So the problem is like Melbourne Storm, and yes, they've been decimated by injury, but you could make the argument that technically, if they go into finals, they've actually got a $9.4 million cap rather than a $9 million cap because they've got a player that's worth $600K instead of a 125 player, but they're only paying 125K because that's the only amount of contract that they have to pay. What do you guys think about the transfer system? Is it fair? Do they need to change it? Is it too late?
Yeah, I personally think it's too late. I think we're too close to finals, and for me, sometimes I think it depends on the player. Like if it's a guy that comes to a club that's not a superstar, it doesn't really rattle my cage. But when I saw the Melbourne Storm have got David Nofoaluma arriving, then I sort of went, "Fuck, hold on! Like, is it sweet for a top 6, top 8 team to take from?"
It did feel
bottom?
a bit strange.
It felt strange. It just didn't feel right. Whereas, there's a rumour going around that Oliver Gildart's going to join the Roosters this week. That one didn't rattle my cage as much, which probably isn't fair.
Yeah.
But I think we all kind of feel similar. Is that fair to say?
Honestly, I don't know how I feel because it's so confusing. There's so many grey areas. You do one thing and then something else pops up. For example, Tavita Pangai Jr. last year, I don't know whether he sacked at the Broncos. Can you Google that? I don't think he was sacked. I thought he left. But even if he was sacked, leaves, goes to the Panthers, and then plays at the Panthers and nearly made a grand final except for an injury, then goes to the Bulldogs. So technically it wasn't a loan, but it's essentially the same thing. Like he went to a club for a small period, then he bounced. And so I don't know what the right answer is. What do you reckon, Timmy?
I hate it. I think it's a rort. 5 weeks until the finals, and legal, of course, but 5 weeks before the finals start, and you can go and sign David Nofoaluma from a club who's bottom of the ladder or towards the bottom of the ladder. It's like the Raiders going, all right, the Titans are going poorly. Let's get rid of Sammy Valemai, free up a roster spot, and we'll get Tino down, who might come down for the rest of the season, try and play finals footy. Now, it's just a stupid example off the top of my head, but the fact that it happened, and correct me if I'm wrong, but did the cutoff used to be, was it July 1 or maybe even slightly
30,
earlier? Yeah, June 30. And then they pushed it back a month because of COVID, during the COVID, which made complete sense because it was like there were so many ins and outs and just all sorts of things going on. It was a weird time. They were in the bubble up in Queensland, so fine. But they haven't moved it back since. I feel like now that we're back to relative normality, particularly because they're not in the bubble up in Queensland, push it back to June 30, where it's like, at least if they're making a transfer, a player's coming for close to half the season. 5 weeks from finals, I don't like it at all.
But I guess, like, in their defence at the start of the season, they didn't know what this year was going to look like. So I can understand them not bringing it back. But I also think, like, if this week they brought it back, I'd be like, if I was one of these other clubs, like if I'm Parramatta or Penrith, who could potentially go and get themselves a halfback or a 5'8" from one of these lower clubs, I'm going, fuck that. Melbourne got Nofaluma.
Yeah. It's a really hard one because is it good cap management? Like, for example, the argument against that could be like, well, we've played the whole year with one cap spot open, so we've been playing at a disadvantage in our cap. We've had a whole player we haven't been able to use in case this happens. So why shouldn't we be able to when we've been playing the year with less cap?
Or have they let? I'm not sure. Have they let go of someone to free up a spot for Noffa? Has there been any medical dispensation via a player who's out for the year to open up a spot?
I don't know if they'd have enough cash in the cap though. If they were to like let go of a lower grade, like a fringe first grader, I think they'd only have 20 grand left in the cap for the year.
But maybe Noffa said, "I'll come and play for bugger all to be a chance at winning."
I think the NRL enforces values.
Some sort, yeah.
Like if you've played X amount of games, you can't just come in and sign for fucking 50K or whatever. What do you got there, Matty?
Yeah, so basically the wording for the Pangai Junior is differing in all articles, but they never said sacked. It's either he was granted a release or he was asked to leave. But they never said sacked. So pretty much he wasn't...
It's a release.
Yeah, he wasn't sacked, but however way you want to look at it, that was mid-July last year.
Yeah. Yeah, so he got a release and then basically... You're telling me he didn't have something lined up when he got that release? Like, come on.
Well, he had 2 clubs lined up.
Yeah.
I think Matt Lodge signed with the Roosters July 3, right? Which was just it's 4 days after June 30. Let's call it June 30. I personally felt that was fair, and even though he didn't have a club, that's irrelevant. I thought that was fair timing from the Roosters. I think this is too late. I just think they should push it back to June 30 and everything will be all good.
There could be an argument for you pick your squad at the start of the year, you have to have 30, and then you've got your extended as well, so you've got your 35, 40. And if you have injuries, tough luck. That's part of rugby league. The only reason why I'm not sure if I agree with that, but the reason why I say that is that gives opportunities for the lower tier clubs. Like right now, let's say the Melbourne Storm couldn't get Nofaluma and they couldn't bring anyone in and Nelson got, suspended or whatever. They're basically out of the running then. Pretty much. Let's say Josh King, Nelson go out. They could literally fall out of the 8. That gives an opportunity for a struggling club.
Yeah, but that's footy. Shit happens.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
What I'm saying.
You injuries happen and stuff.
Exactly. But whereas in this new environment where you can pull people in on loans, it almost makes the best clubs stay as the best clubs. And also on top of that, look, bring in some youthful guys that haven't played first grade yet that get an opportunity.
I think the best example is the Broncos. They've had a shit couple of years when it comes to results, but those players, especially those forwards, those young forwards who battled through those losses, now have 40 to 60 games to their name, and they're in the top 5, almost in the top 4.
Yep.
I think Brisbane are a great example of the loan system not being imperative.
Working on it. Yeah. It's a really interesting one. I'm not sure what this right answer is. I personally, if I'm just thinking of it right now, I actually don't mind the idea of you pick your 30 at the start of the year and then you're extended, so 40 or whatever, and that's what you're going with, because then that is truly it's a war of attrition as well. It's a war of who managed the cap the best when you in the exact same time, whereas this kind of amorphous nature of, did they intentionally leave that space free for later in the year? Have they worked out that I don't know. I'm not sure where I stand, but at the moment I would lean more towards, but then if players get unhappy. Anyway, at the moment I would lean more towards you pick your squad at the start of the year and then, you go from there pretty much.
Just sort of going a little bit off track, do we think Nofaluma's going to go back to the Tigers?
Well, I think there'd be some pretty heavy contracts in place to do that. In saying that, it does seem like he's on the outer. Maybe they want to free up some space.
I reckon they wanted to do this.
Yeah.
That's where it annoys me. If he now goes back to the Tigers who released him because they're for whatever reason it was beneficial to them, maybe to get him game time, whatever, this season, they're not going to play finals. They're going, we'll give him to Melbourne. And then he goes back to the Tigers next year when it becomes a fresh season. That annoys me. If he's released from the Tigers like TPJ last year, I feel less strongly about it and being adverse to it. I'm with Guru. I think the fact that I don't see what the Tigers get out of giving him to Melbourne, which makes me think...
Other than trying to get him gone.
and salary cap.
Yeah, which
dispensation.
makes me think he's moving on, surely.
If the Tigers gave Melbourne Dane Laurie, at least I could sit there and go, okay, mate, he's a young guy, he's getting experience, but what's Noff? 28 years old, he's played, he would have played close to 200 first grade games or something. How he's an experienced, he's an established.
He's their leading club try scorer.
Yeah, like I think this is a get lost. We're moving on, personally.
Fuck, spot on, Guru. 28 years old, 175 games.
They call him a guru for
Give
no
yourself
reason.
the name, mate. Definitely did.
One more thing, just like what's stopping Penrith, for example? I know Hastings got injured. What's stopping Penrith having Cleary suspended for 5 weeks and the next day signing Hastings for the rest of the year? Like how shocking would that be?
And I think that if the Tigers aren't in the position they are now with Brooks and Hastings, I think that one of these, Parramatta or Penrith, would have reached out to them.
Yeah, but they probably don't have the money, though. That's the only problem. It's like that most of them wouldn't have the money in the cap. The only way that you can get yourself in a position to be able to do this is if you've been playing the whole year with less cap than everyone else. Technically less cap, from what we know. Yeah, look, it's a tough one. I don't know. What I do know for sure, though, that I'm not pretty keen, I'm very keen on, is we need to package up this transfer system, whatever, so that it is an consumable entertainment for the punter. Right now, it's willy-nilly, players going there, whatever. If we package it up and it goes over a few weeks or whatever, we can generate revenue as a game by, entertainment, Transfer windows in like soccer or whatever, like I don't even follow soccer, but you speak to any soccer fan and they talk about the transfer windows. It's like a game. AFL, same situation. It's like a game within the game. We need to package it and start making money off it.
You're right, because today should be a very exciting day if we were like that, because today's deadline day.
Yeah,
but
it's
no
not
one really
to us.
even knows.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe a bit tinfoily hat, but are the NRL not stoked that this is a bit of a circus and there's just going to be more and more headlines and people are more and more talking about it?
Yeah. Yeah, the argument against my thing of like packaging it up and making it exciting few weeks is like, well, this way we have it going all year and it's just a circus and we get the headlines all year. But I still think you'd get more out of putting it in a month and like really, generating, get ad sponsorships and all that kind of stuff for it. Yeah, so I'm not sure where I stand. Let us know in the comments section where you stand on the trade window. But outside of that, Manly, be very, very proud of your boys. They played outstanding. Yeah.
Shout out to Chico, made his way back into first grade.
Yes, absolutely.
Great knock.
The great James Seguiaro, since 2019? Comes back into first grade. What a journey. What an absolute journey. To stick at it. And I'll be honest, I thought, I didn't think he'd be able to make it back in. Not because of his talent, just because of his age. I just didn't know whether any NRL squad would have a spot for him. But
I agree. I didn't think he'd make it back either. Great knock.
Easily talented enough. I just thought the age, but incredible from him. So well done to Chico. Great stuff. Now, on to Warriors v. the Storm. We've already kind of gone over the pretty crazy Nelson Asafa-Solomona situation. What about the penalty against Curran on Hughes? Do you remember that play? Probably don't. It was a pretty innocuous thing. I thought the reffing this weekend was really poor. Really poor. I think it's becoming alarming at how poor the reffing is becoming. And I thought in this game it was quite poor. Anyway, we'll get to the game. I thought we actually witnessed the Storm play kind of their old school footy. Super aggressive, super grindy. But if I'm being honest right now, what I feel, I'm happy to be wrong. But right now I feel that I can't see them. They don't look anywhere near the team that they were at the start of the year.
Yeah, I don't think they can turn. I don't think they can turn it around as far as winning a premiership this year. I just can't.
I just don't think that they can replicate what Pappenhausen gives them up through the middle there. I think Nick Meaney, works his ass off, and I think he's got a bit of an injury now, so maybe a week or two away. But I think they're just running out a bit of steam at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, like I've said for a number of weeks now, their edges just look shot to me. Like missing Remus Smith has been huge. They'll get Xavier Coates back. They'll get Nofaluma back, but even a Nofaluma, like respectfully to him, you can catch him out on edges as well. He's shown that over the last few years.
Xavier.
And Xavier, like they're not like. Whereas I look at Remus Smith and he's like a solid defensive centre in my opinion. He does a job there. I I don't know. It's, as we said, similar to the Sydney Roosters, like I said to you. You can have your 7, your 6, your 9, your 1. If you're not winning the middle, you can't win in this competition. And I think it's, as we said a few times without going back over it, modern-day miracle that they're going to keep Nass and Josh King. They'll get Cheese back. We said a couple of weeks ago he's the one guy that could break it open, and I stand by that. If we get the very best of Cheese through the middle and his momentum to get him on the front foot. But I haven't seen that from Cheese this year. Maybe a 3-week spell, have him fresh and ready to go. But I think that's the one thing that can save him this year, a Cheese hitting career best form when he comes back.
Just watching them the last month, it's not even about execution. They just don't have that same energy as they've had in yesteryear. I'm struggling to see it. But if there is a team that can prove everyone wrong, it is the Storm. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I'm a little bit more glass half full on them, and not really based on what they've done against the Warriors on the weekend. But Guru covered most of my thoughts there, only that I'm a little bit more positive on probably Brandon Smith coming back in. I touched on it last week, but they're just a big, sort of relatively immobile forward pack with King there, Sofa Solomon, Bromwich. I think Cheese coming in will be so good for their go forward, getting those quick play the balls, which Harry Grant just feasts off, Munster feasts off. I think there'll be a different type with him, even though he hasn't had a great season. I think it's shown how much they've missed in the last 3 weeks. Him coming back in, we mentioned defensively, Coates and Noffa not the best, but you replace Grant Anderson, who had an absolute Barry rocker on the weekend. Poor bugger, I felt sorry for him. But he drops out, Jeremiah drops out. You have Noffa and Xavier Coates. Them two come in, Cheese back in the middle under the Craig Bellamy regime. I still have some hope for them. They'll have the Titans this week. If they can get a good win up there and just bolster a bit of confidence, then it goes into a tougher draw. Look, the signs aren't great, but I'm certainly not putting a line through them.
Yeah. To be really clear, you said it. I'm not putting a line through them, but I just don't, put it this way, I wouldn't have them as second favourites to win the comp right now.
Yep.
That turned quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, and it turned quite quickly. Whereas, even 3 weeks ago, literally 3 weeks ago, I would have said, they're definitely the second. But for me right now, they're probably, maybe 4th or 5th, maybe, when it comes to favourites for me to win the comp.
The team that they're running out right now, and granted it will be improved to 2 or 3 weeks, I think they're close to the team you would want to play in the top 8 come finals time.
Yeah.
I know that's bold, but fucking miss me with South Sydney. Latrell and Cody, the way that they're playing at the moment. Parramatta, we know that they can beat the top teams on their day. Brisbane are going well. They're playing consistent footy. I'd like what the Melbourne Storm have put out the last month. Yes, they won on the weekend, and sometimes all you just need is a win. Doesn't matter how it fucking comes, ugly, whatever, just get it. But yeah, I think out of these top 8 teams, they're probably a team that I wouldn't mind playing this weekend. That's crazy. And it's crazy to think that we're sitting here going into finals and we're talking about the Melbourne Storm, the Roosters and the Panthers all having troubles. It's great for the competition. And Parramatta without Mitch Moses, it's unreal for the competition. It's going to be very interesting. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Melbourne are a top.
I personally believe if they make the grand final, it's one of Craig Bellamy's greatest feats. I really do. It's not just about the players they're missing. They don't have that same energy. And maybe Bellamy can get that back out of them. But I mean, when you compare this time to last year, they were literally breaking every record in the books. And so I just worry that they just run out of steam a little bit. We have footy is so hard. They won the comp living away from home for an entire year. Then they came out last year and absolutely blew everyone off the park. Then they petered at the end and got beaten. And I just wonder whether they're just a little bit tired from such a huge few years for them. Any team outside of Sydney, having to move your head your whole life, all the flying they have to do to the further flying they have to do. I don't know. I'm just worried that they may just be a little bit tired. Again, we could come back next week and go, you know what? Melbourne Storm are back, baby. But right now, today, I would probably have them 4th or 5th in favourites to win the comp, which is bizarre. I can't remember the last time I had that with the Storm.
And we mentioned before, I think that Trent Robinson the next month is going to be one of the biggest challenges of his career. Craig Bellamy, what he's facing at the moment. 15
long-term injuries this year he's had.
And, mate, the reality is that Craig Bellamy's in the argument for greatest coaches ever.
Yeah, easy.
But in 10 years' time, when we look back at it, if Melbourne don't turn this around, no one's going to remember that they had 15 injuries this season. It's going to be, since the big 3 retired, Craig wasn't able to get them back there.
Yeah.
That's going to be the reality of the narrative, which is so
bullshit,
unfair.
yeah.
But it's a really interesting time for Craig Bellamy and his legacy.
What's crazy is like next year they lose Kafusi, they lose Bromwich, they lose Kenny Bromwich, they lose Cheese.
Like that pack is going to be unrecognisable next year, and they're going to have to go and spend money to replace those guys. I think that's the one thing that worries me about it, and we mentioned it last week, is that Craig Bellamy isn't bringing in Joe Blow from Queensland Cup that we've never heard of, and he turns into an Origin front rower. He's not doing it this year.
I think that's because he's had like his whole bench just got gutted.
For sure, but it doesn't change the reality of it. It
Yeah.
doesn't change that he doesn't have those guys to fill next year.
That's a good point.
It's going to be a huge challenge.
Yeah, huge challenge. And I'm sure there's a Storm fan out there listening, I can't believe you wrote them off, Canberra. What I'm saying is just like, I just don't have them in the same spot as I had them a couple of weeks ago. Like that wasn't an impressive win for me against the Warriors. Like I thought the Warriors got a few tough calls against them. And the Warriors, we all know, like they're not playing the best footy. I wasn't convinced by that victory. Would you move Munster back to the fullback spot while Meany's out?
I would, yes. I can understand the arguments not to. I honestly would have considered moving him there last week.
I would have already moved him.
Yeah, because I just think to be able to win this competition, you're going to need something special, and having Munster in that spot, I think.
As soon as he went back to fullback on the weekend, he fucking killed it.
Yeah,
I reckon that what you would do, you've got enough strike power in the halves with Hughes. You put a 6 in that can defend and pass the ball. That's it. Well, I don't know who it would be. I'm sure Cooper Johns is there. I'm sure there are other guys that can just defend really well and pass the ball. You get Munster out the back just to create a bit of magic because they're missing that at the moment. Their completion rate, I'm not sure about the weekend, but before, their completion rate has been good the last few weeks. So 81%, I think it was 85%. So they're doing all those things right. They're just not capitalising. The only person that can deliver the same quality, if not better, than Pappenhausen at the back is Cam Munster.
Yep.
And their fullback is so important. So I'd be putting him back there. What do you reckon, Timmy?
I like it, echoing exactly what you just said. Bring Johns in there, just sort of run the show, do a solid job, pass, kick, whatever. It also brings Jerome Hughes into the game more. He'll get more quality touches when he wants the ball. And you let the Mad Dog roam like the Mad Dog that he is.
Yep.
How exciting would that be to watch?
Yep.
And it could just be the injection of energy that they need and what they're lacking. So
I think you're right. It's good, perfect use of the English language, Timmy.
sometimes you'd really question that I'm apparently a qualified journalist. You think English is my second language, the way I speak.
But
Sorry, I just think if you put Munster back there, Nofaluma goes to one wing, who makes 1,000 metres, then Coates comes back in a couple of weeks. Suddenly you got a different back three, and the starts of their sets are going to be so much better than they have been.
yeah, but you're right. Injection of energy. When I look at that team, it looks like a tired team that has just been going too good for too long. Whereas Munster back there,
it's just an underrated viewpoint to think, if I'm playing the Melbourne Storm this week, what worries me more, Munster at 6 or Munster at 1?
Yeah, probably
it's
at 1.
Munster at 1 by a country
because he just pops up anywhere and just like, fuck off.
You can't
Munster.
prepare for that.
Yeah.
Literally can't. Like we've seen him go to fullback for the Queensland Maroons, and a New South Wales team have 2 weeks to prepare for that. Couldn't fucking get near it.
Imagine big Nels Skitland, 3 blokes, popping arm to Munster through the middle of the ruck.
He might be the best 5'8" in rugby league, but I honestly do think he would be more suited at the fitness he's at right now to the fullback role.
Yeah. I mean, put it this way: he goes to fullback, he immediately challenged all the best fullbacks. Easy.
Tell the other thing, he's had a stack of injury, particularly I think shoulder niggles last couple of seasons. Just not to be making 20 tackles games, got to be good for him, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's a good point. So you just get him energised as anything for the attack. Oh, if only one of us knew someone high up at the Storm. Just getting his ear. Hey, Smithy, I got a tip for you, mate. Play Munster at fullback. That one's for free. Next one's going to cost you, mate. I actually did bring it up on our podcast last week, and he didn't mind the idea.
He didn't mind it?
Yeah, he didn't mind it. He was like, I actually don't. So who knows? Could we see the Mad Dog back there? Now, on to the Warriors. I thought they showed a lot of fight. I thought they were gallant. Tohu Harris, honestly, this bloke is just week in. Every time he plays a game of rugby league, he never lets anyone down. He's never played a game where I think any of his teammates would have been like, oh, he was just solid. Every game, he puts everything on the line. He goes all day long, makes 1 million tackles, takes 1 million hit-ups. He's fucking incredible. And if I'm another club, I know you're probably never going to get him away from the Warriors, but I'm finding a way to get him into my roster. Seriously, if I need a front rower or even a back rower, but I think he's a front rower nowadays, I'm trying to get Tohu Harris to my club.
With the most respect to the Warriors I can possibly say this with, he deserves to be playing finals footy. He deserves to be in a team that's playing finals footy every single year, Harris. And hopefully the Warriors can turn into that side, but I don't see it at the moment, to be honest with you. And he's a guy that he should be playing in bigger, more relevant games consistently.
I'm a bit worried for the Warriors because that was their full-strength side, pretty much. Unless there's someone that I'm missing. I'm pretty sure that was essentially outside of maybe Jesse Arthurs. That was their full-strength side, and the Storm were not, they were not convincing at all, in my opinion. And the Warriors just didn't seem to be that troubling, if I'm being honest. They had their moments for sure. There's no doubt about that. But I'm concerned about the Warriors next year because they lose Ewan Aiken, they lose Reece Walsh, Sean Johnson. He's got maybe another year left, maybe. I'm not seeing they got Ronald Volkman, who's going to be great, but I still think they're a few signings away from having a top 8 competitive side next year.
And I also think I'm the head honcho of the Ronald Volkman fan club, but he's gone from being their 5'8" 2 weeks ago to he's their 3rd or 4th choice now. They're picking him. They're picking guys in front of him that they know are not going to be there next season.
Bizarre.
I don't understand the management of how. I don't understand how Chanel Harris-Tavita, who has said, I don't want to be here next year.
Not even I don't want to be here. I don't want to play footy.
Yeah, I don't know how on earth he becomes your starting fullback into your starting 5'8" when you've got all these other guys that you could be picking there. It just, I don't know. And once again, as harsh as it sounds, when the ball is kicked next season, the sympathy for the Warriors, I think it'll quickly disappear.
Yeah.
And I appreciate so much what they've done. I respect them for it. But next year, that sympathy is going to go very quickly, and fans are going to expect the Warriors to be competitive again. And I look at their squad, and I'm just not sure they will be.
Yeah, I agree. I look at their squad next year, and I'm quite concerned. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I mean, it's only you struggle to see how they're going to improve next year. So I think Reece Walsh has been one of their best this year. Watching the Warriors on the weekend, some of the touches he had, I was getting so excited. You lose that X factor in attack. Look, where are points coming from? Ewan Aiken has also probably been their top 3 best this year. He goes. Very concerning. A bit of a shout out to Guru touched on it earlier, but the Edward Kosey redemption game after that stinker against the Storm earlier to get a hat trick on. It looked like a really good Warriors left edge, but it might have just been that the Storm right edge defensively was horrific. But it was good to see for him because we've seen a few redemptions this year, Morgan Harper being another one at Manly, but to see Kosey get a hat trick, good on him.
And I mean, we look back at the Harper game and, he came up against an absolute juggernaut that night. Whereas I look at the Kosey game and it was more so just Kosey had an absolute shocker that night, like an absolute shocker. So to see him bounce back from that, which I think it's undervalued by people, how impressive it is to bounce back from that much scrutiny and I mean, it must be so tough. When you look back at your career, Kempy, is there like a standout worst game that you had for you or a worst moment?
You know what? I was pretty fortunate. I didn't play long enough to have a really poor game. Yeah. So I'm sure if I had played, 200 or whatever, I would have had a shocker. But I had some just solid games, but no Barry Crockers where you're going. No 3 drop balls in NRL or anything like that.
And I mean, I guess for Kosey, that makes it even harder. He's in the first 20, 25 games of his career, if that.
Yeah.
And to have a game like that already, it'd be pretty jarring. So for him to bounce back, especially against the team that it happened against too, I reckon it's a good knock.
Yeah.
Well done to him.
I thought he was really, really good on the weekend. Don't get me wrong, though. I had quiet games where didn't do much, might have missed a tackle or two, but not ones where you're sitting there going, fuck, this poor bloke. I agree. Kosey was really, really good on the weekend. Good finishing. Good ball runner too.
Just on the Warriors, and there might be a perfect reason for this, and I haven't looked into it, but now that they play back in New Zealand, I wish they'd have their Sky Sports commentators, the Kiwis. Because back in the day when the Warriors used to play, they used to have definitely Darryl Halligan and then whoever the main commentator was, I forget his name. It was just, and they were so they were a little bit, if not a lot biased to the Warriors, but you didn't really care because it was over there. I wish those guys would come back.
I mean, I'm sure Kiwi fans think the Aussie commentators are biased towards the Aussie team, so I'm okay with that.
Me
I'm
too,
okay
100%.
with it.
Love it.
Kiwi commentator, I agree. I much rather listen to the Warriors games when they're at home with the Kiwi commentators. Just doesn't feel, it feels a bit weird without it. And it just adds that flavour that you want, like just that different feel to the game. So, yeah, it's a good point. I would much rather that. Yeah, look, outside of that, that's what it was. It was the Curran. It was a high tackle on Hughes. And honestly, he barely even touched him. He seriously barely even touched him. Meanwhile, Nelson's... Anyway. Yeah, so look, a bit concerning for the Warriors, but the positive is I feel like they've got a great forward pack. I feel like Egan's improving. Adam Fanua-Blake is incredible. Tohu Harris. Ewan Aiken's a massive loss.
Mitch Barnett walks in.
Yeah, that's true. Barnett will help. So, yeah, interesting times for Warriors. Interesting times. Eels versus the Panthers. If you ever wanted an example of the Eels season, you look at this game. So, yeah, granted, yes, Penrith scored the first try, but Penrith with it, like their full team on the paddock outside of Jerome Luai, the Eels dominated them. Like the Eels looked much better, dominated the ruck in my opinion. They're winning. Obviously, Cleary gets sent off, but then the Eels go on to score a bunch of tries. They're actually smashing him in the first half. They come out the second half against one less player, so they're playing against 12 men, and the Penrith Panthers won the second half. Like, how is that possible? I will never know. So this is, I feel bad because to Eels fans, you've had a great win. You beat Penrith. And, look, if I was going to be biased to myself, I'd be like, see, I told you, the Eels are still here. But unfortunately, it was almost it wasn't the most unconvincing because they did dominate them in the first half. But it's like we said before last week. We said, even if the Eels go out and beat Penrith, it doesn't change my opinion of, I don't know what Eels are going to turn up. I still do believe, though, I've got the vibe that I think they can go on a run. In saying that, I just thought the fact that they lost that second half is like, far out. Come on.
Yeah. And similar to you, I could sit here and say, well, you lost the second half to 12 fucking players. This is the Parramatta I told you about. But I don't know how much you look into this game. I mean, and it's disappointing because Cleary got sent off in the 17th minute. I thought Parramatta actually showed up first 20 minutes. I thought they were looking good. It was looking like it was going to be a really good game of footy. What was it, 12-6, 12-4 at that point?
Yeah, I honestly, even the first 20, but definitely the first 30 for sure. But first 20, I was like, Eels are going to win this game. That's how confident, like the way they were playing, I was like, they're going to win this game.
Yeah, and then, the send-off happens and obviously puts you down to 12, but it also takes out, in my opinion, the best player in rugby league. Definitely the best player on that field. So I don't really know if there's much to say on this one, to be honest with you. It's unfortunate. It just is what it is. This game deserved better than what it got, but it was the right call. It had to happen. But I'm not... Honestly, this game could have not happened, and I don't think I would have changed my opinions. The
Eels have just put themselves in this weird position. Api Coruscant, 57 tackles, only one miss. Wow.
He's going to be missed.
I think if I was a Para fan, I'd be firmly focusing on that first 20 with Cleary, where they were on top in the game, and that's the big performance indicator for me. The one that sort of keeps creeping back to me is with send-offs. Remember earlier in the year when we spoke about when sides go down to 12 and then the opposition with 13 can just sometimes become a little bit too complacent, thinking things are going to happen too easily. I think we spoke about it, the Warriors game against the Sharks, when the Sharks went down to 11 players at one stage and then 12 when a player came back from the bin. And, they're just trying to move the ball straight away, edge to edge, because they think, we'll go round them, they're short, and it just doesn't work that way. It's another one here where it's just like, you see teams not getting the ascendancy despite being a player down, the opposition being a player down, and I'm just seeing more and more of it as a bit of a pattern. So perhaps that was something that happened with Parramatta on the weekend. Aside from that, though, it's like it's hard to really take much from it, isn't it?
This is going to sound crazy. I actually think the Penrith Panthers take more from it than the Eels do, because they were absolutely outstanding in the second half. Like, to not only lose Cleary, but they've lost Luai as well. So they're basically playing with their reserve grade halves. And they were managed to hold the Para Eels. Now, look, it's the same team that also got 34 put on them, so don't get me wrong. But, I mean, for 40 minutes of footy, they beat them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's really impressive.
So, question, and I'm going straight off the back of that. Ignore the first half. Because Ivan Cleary had time to gather the boys, like calm them down. Like it was all tumultuous over the send-off. Had time to get them together and calm them down. And then they went out and performed in the second half. Is that an indication of what we were talking about at the start of the show, that Penrith have nothing to worry about?
Yeah, for sure. We'll put it this way. Like a lot of people think, they might lose, the last 4 or 5 games. I don't think so. I think they might drop 1 or 2. I'd be surprised. If they drop 3 games, I'll be surprised. That's how good they played. Like their forward pack was outstanding in the second half. So, look, it's a really, really tough one. I mean, I'll talk about the Eels. I thought Dylan Brown was outstanding again. I mean, outside of Munster, I think he's been the best 6 all year. I thought Papali'i was really good as well. But yeah, Junior Paulo was fantastic. Look, it's strange because when you look at the forward pack, whenever Eels play well, their forwards just fucking dominate, like absolutely dominate. But their inability to finish sets with a guy like Mitchell Moses, who is so experienced, it's a bit surprising. Like you look at it and you go, how is that possible? Like, it's not like they're not getting put in good position to win games. But yeah, back to Dylan Brown. I thought he was absolutely fantastic, especially in the first half. And in his game, he had 2 try assists, 131 metres, 2 tackle breaks, a line break assist, 25 tackles, only 1 miss. I think he's only re-signed for next year. I think November 1st he can sign with another club. How much are you paying for Dylan Brown on the open market? Have we spoken about this before on the podcast?
I would assume we have at some point, but I think the next month is going to be really telling for Dylan Brown. Without Mitch Moses, them fighting for holding a top 8, but I think Parramatta should also be, their mindset should be, we're fighting for a top 4 spot here. So without Mitch Moses, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Dill handles it. Spoke about it 2 weeks ago. I said, you want to boo this guy? Yeah. It might come a point where you're relying on him. He's your fucking halfback when you're trying to win top 4. So, I don't know. I think Parramatta fans, you need to put your arm around Jacob Arthur, and if you're next to someone booing him, just give him a little clip.
It's the first thing I thought of when I saw Mitchell Moses out for like 5 weeks or however long, 4 or 5 weeks.
And this is where, once again, if Jacob Arthur comes up with a couple of match-winning plays or he plays well and all of a sudden you get a top 4 spot, as much as I completely disagree with it, we're going to sit back and go, geez, thank God he moved Dylan Brown to centre and gave Jacob Arthur a couple of games in the halves at the start of the season.
For sure.
I completely disagree with that decision, but it's going to pay dividends if it works out over the next 4 weeks.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Lockie Ilias getting hooked from Demetrio. Like, I did not agree with that at all. Like, I thought that was so wrong, so poorly handled. But at the end of the day, Lockie Ilias is playing some really good footy. I thought the weekend was a little bit quiet, but the week before he's outstanding. And the Rabbitohs look like that they'll probably make the 8. And so it's like some decisions in the time can look crazy, but coaches have a longer vision for it. So if you're a Para fan, you want to be making Jacob Arthur as confident as anything because they can still fall out of the 8. And so, could you imagine? What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I can't wait to see what Dylan Brown does as a dominant half, especially with an inexperienced player in Jake Arthur coming into the side. Like, Mitchy Moses hasn't missed a lot of footy the last few years. Dylan Brown he had some very good years, but a career best year this season where he's just killing it. With him completely in control of this side, he'll have to play as a genuine number 7. We know he loves to run the ball. I'm excited to see what heights his game can go to with a third more of the amount of touches he's getting per game. It's going to be ripping to watch. Yeah,
really interesting. And in it's like the age-old debate, like, is he made to be a number 7 or is it going to be too much on his plate to not free him to do what he needs to do? Like, it's kind of like Munster. Munster probably could play 7, but you don't want him in the 7. You want him free to attack. You want him free to be able to be, instead of being around the ruck, you want him a bit further out to be taking on the 3 and 4 defender. And so Dylan Brown, if it's too much, it's going to be interesting to see. It's also going to be interesting to see how much, like, do they make Jacob Arthur the dominant guy? Do they say, Jacob Arthur, we need you to get us around the park? But look, if anyone has a skill set, it's Dylan Brown. Like, I don't think we've seen even close to the tippity top of his potential, and what he can offer.
And just like you have a look at Parramatta's run home, like as you said, they could miss finals. Could you imagine it? They play Manly at Brookvale. They play South Sydney. They play Canterbury. Then they have to go to Suncorp to play Brisbane. Then they play Melbourne. I mean,
all without Mitchell Moses.
Canterbury's the easiest game there. I would argue that Canterbury's playing top 8 style footy at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. Didn't Canterbury beat them a few weeks ago, like a while ago? Or was it the Tigers?
No, Dogs beat them as well.
Yeah, so Dogs beat them.
Smashed them.
Yeah. So it's like they definitely can lose to Canterbury.
I mean, I don't know what on earth is going to happen to Manly this from now on, but I would not want to play them this week. I don't know what on earth I'm going to get at Brookvale Oval from Manly. Then you play South Sydney. That's going to, it's a tough run for a team without their halfback who, I'm sorry, they do have a tendency to underachieve.
Yeah, fuck.
Imagine if they missed the 8 this year.
Yeah.
Imagine if they missed the 8 and then Reid Marnie and IPAP walk out of this club. It's going to be chaos.
Well, this is a perfect example of you can't afford to just drop wins and think you're going to cruise on in because you've got the squad to do it. Like, if they had banked up a bunch of wins right now, they'd be sitting third or second even, and they'd be okay. They'd be fine.
And that's the insane thing. They play the Rabbitohs, who are one spot below them on the ladder. They play Brisbane and Storm, who are the teams above them. If they were to lose all 3 of those games and the Roosters find something, they could quite easily miss the 8. Raiders have got a soft draw. Parramatta could be the unlucky team, and you'd have to think that Parramatta versus Broncos game next week, or the week after, whenever it is, like that might decide who gets a home final. And if I'm Parramatta, if I want to give this competition a shake, if I'm not in the top 4, they need to get a home final week 1. I think that's going to decide a lot of these games, whether you have to go to CommBank, to Suncorp, to Melbourne, wherever it might be, you need that home final.
Let's say they fell out of the 8. Let's say in the worst case, I don't think they will. I think they've got a premiership threat squad. Is there pressure on Brad Arthur then?
Probably.
Which is fucking so unfair. Loses his key halfback, gets them all the way from wooden spoon to a top 4 side essentially. I think they'll pull through. I actually think they're a backs against the wall kind of team. Like, you know what I mean? I just think that forward pack is so fucking good. Like, seriously, I'd argue on paper that's probably the best forward pack in the comp. Like, that's how good they are on paper. Seriously.
If they drop this game against Manly this weekend,
it's a must-win game.
And the Rabbitohs beat the Warriors, which I think they will. The Melbourne Storm beat the Titans, which I think they will. And then the Broncos and the Roosters, whichever way that goes. But if the Roosters happen to win that...
Well, you actually don't want the Roosters to... you don't want the Broncos...
Well, you kind of do. At least
win.
You don't want the Roosters to win, because then you're only
shit.
1 win away from falling out of the 8.
Yeah.
If the Raiders keep doing what they're doing.
So you want the Broncos to win, but you don't want the Broncos to be in form because then they might fucking tear you up the next week or a week after.
It's just win or nothing. It is. You just need to win out here. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're Brad Arthur, you're going. We just need the next 3 games, boys. 3 games. Fucking. It sucks because we sound overly negative with the Eels. I still think they've got so much. I'm still so excited for the rest of the year. So I'm not. It's more because we have high. Well, I can't speak for you guys. It's more for me personally because I have such high standards for them.
And that's why I'm so disappointed in them, because I have high standards for them, because they're a bloody good football team. They've shown us that.
Honestly, when they're on, they're fucking so good to watch. Yeah. Like their last win against against Penrith, such exciting footy. But yeah, the good thing is they're, Regan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paulo are just fucking... I just love the aggression they bring. When they're on and they're just pumping it through the middle there, it's one after the other, big plays. Huge fan of that forward rotation or forward partnership, sorry. Anything outside of that, boys, with the Para Eels?
No, I think that covers it, yeah.
All good. I actually, we'll get a quick answer. Do you think they fall out of the 8?
No.
Matty?
I'm not as confident.
Wow.
I'm not as confident. I think Canberra are going to make it. I don't know who misses out, but I think they're going to squeeze someone out. And at the moment, I think it looks like Eels could be that team. So
over the Roosters?
So at this point, I'm going to say Roosters, but it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah. I don't think they slide out. I think that their backs against the wall. I think they'll deliver that 4-pack. It excites me.
I think they'll be 7th or 8th.
7th or 8th?
Yep.
I think we're going to be surprised at how well they play over the next... People hate me.
You got stocks in Parramatta? Or
People hate me because I'm I love the way Para plays when they're good. They excite me. I like them as a team. You know what else I think it is? It's because I didn't grow up with footy. I don't have that that history with them, falling short or whatever for so many years. I've just... it's more recent for me. And also I scored 4 tries against them, whatever. All right, on to the Titans v the Raiders. Before we get there, though, make sure to grab a case of Bloke in a Bar. Bloke Midi, now in every Liquor Legends in New South Wales and Queensland. And I think also we're starting to be put into ACT Liquor Legends as well, and some Victorian ones. Plus, the OG Bloke, the OG full-strength Bloke, is in every single Celebrations, Bottle O, Porter's Liquor, and IGA Plus Liquor in New South Wales ACT, or every single Celebrations Superstore in Queensland. Go to our website, put in your postcode, it'll show you the nearest stockist. Plus, go to bloke.shop, grab some Bloke merch. We've got plenty there. We've got hoodies, beanies, all that good stuff. Now, Titans v Raiders. I actually picked Titans for the upset on this one. I thought that they were going to get up for it. Sorry about that, Timmy. I know that that hurts. I know that hurts, mate. In the end, the Raiders were far too strong. Jackie Whiten was absolutely sensational. Timmy, what did you think of this match?
It was a bit of a weird one because the Raiders were pretty ruthless in attack, had some really good moments. Our forward pack was dominant again, but we also conceded 24 points to the Titans, who were horrendous. Like, they're really putting up some poor performance after poor performance at the moment. So they almost scored again late, which would have made the final score 36-30, which is not good enough if we're serious about being a top 8 team. It's really good because I had questions around our attack earlier in the year. I still do, but we're starting to pile on a few points. We need to go back to that defensive sort of astuteness now. So, look, coming out of that game, I wasn't overly happy as a Raiders fan, but we got the 2 points, kept in the hunt for finals. That's the main thing. I thought Hudson Young, who we speak about most weeks, was unbelievable in this one.
Yeah.
Like, his ability to pull something out of his arse in, like, there's a situation there where he threw an offload, it might have been to Seb Chris or someone.
Oh.
They had like 3-on-2, it might have been fifth tackle, and you're going, what could you possibly do? But part of me knew that Hutto was going to find a way out of this, and he did. That miraculous footy. His footy this year's been incredible.
Mate, amazing. Now, I think he's a Pommy, isn't he?
No.
So he's not an Englishman.
No.
Why did I think he was an Englishman?
Everyone
most of the
thinks that.
Raiders are,
I thought it as well. Everyone seems to. I think because they've got so many Englishmen, he kind of just came at the same time. He's from Maitland. So.
Well, I tell you what, he should be in that blue squad.
For sure.
I think now that New South Wales have lost the opportunity to bring Radley in, I think he's the perfect sort of personality. And he's got a little bit of Greg Bird about him.
He's a mongrel.
Yeah, I think he'd be perfect to come into this side.
It seems a bit weird, but he actually reminds me a bit of Fafita. He seriously does. Like, he's very strong. He's not as, exactly like Fafita, David Fafita, that is, but he's just got a bit of it about him. Like, he'll get like the ball just standing still, but manage to throw a few blokes and get some strange offload.
Very skillful.
Very skillful.
And he knows it as well. Against Newcastle a couple of weeks ago, he grubbered through the line, backed himself. Like, not many back rows would do that. I love that. He's got the attitude where he's not afraid to make a mistake. And with his skill set, that can be lethal. And then he backs it up with this.
We had a try, 2 try assists, 118 metres, 31 tackles, 5 tackle breaks, a line break assist, 3 offloads.
Yeah, like you look at the Raiders' resurgence in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks, you can largely put that down to Hudson Young and Joe Tappaney's turning form. They've like the rest of them been solid, but they've really carried us and won us games between them.
And like, this is Hudson's best game, I think, but this isn't a once in a while thing. He's putting in performances similar to this every second week at the moment.
And you're right in the sense that, like, every time there's a stink, Hudson Young is around it. And obviously, as an opponent, you hate it. But as a fan, you're like, fucking oath. And, like, I remember was it against the Storm? Where he was in it all the time. Every time Hudson Young was in there. And that's why I personally believe that maybe not in the starting side yet, but he absolutely, if he continues his form, should be in the wider squad. I think he'll bring a lot of mongrel. He doesn't take a backward step to anyone. Like, I've never watched a game and gone, oh, Hudson Young's he's been a bit quiet because they're getting dominated in a forward pack. Every game, he takes it to the opposing forward pack. And the thing is like, if he can't beat them, like, by actually runs and that, he'll get dirty and he doesn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? And, like, we forget that is rugby league.
If he needs to gouge eyes, we know he'll do it.
We'll fucking know it. Now, obviously, he's cleaned
And if he gets suspended, he'll do it again.
But, like, and as much as it's fucked, like, he hasn't done that for a long time. But, like, we're talking rugby league here. You need guys that are willing to take it to whatever fucking level the opposition is taking to it, and sometimes further. And that was devastating that year. We laugh at that, but that was the grand final year, wasn't it? And he got rubbed out. But aside from that blemish of the two eye gouges, Jesus Christ, he's actually been really good since then. Really, really good in regards to discipline that I can remember. I can't. Is there any other incidences that you can remember since then?
He plays the game very hard.
Yeah, I think he pushes the envelope.
Yeah,
but
like because he plays so hard, he'll have his high shots and those sorts of things, which is just going to naturally be in his game, a bit like Victor Radley.
Yeah,
nothing too bad. No.
Nothing too, and that's the thing. Like these guys exist in rugby league. We forget we're playing a violent, tough game that isn't for everyone, and you need blokes like Hudson Young sometimes to just fucking mix it up.
Isn't it funny? I just said he reminds me of Greg Bird, and then Matty said, he's from Maitland. Greg Bird from Maitland as well. Both at the same time.
How good's that? Far out. So look, Hudson Young for me, I'm sure Freddie has an eye on him. For example, and not to say that the other New South Wales Blues boys that didn't handle the Burton situation poorly. Like I think they got there as quick as they could, but I can't see Hudson Young not doing something back to someone, whether it's dirty, whether it's from behind. Like he would just get them back somehow. So I think he'd be a great addition to the Blue squad. I really, really do. He's so impressive. Every game the Raiders play well, he's a part of it. Yeah. And he's actually like the heart. I wouldn't say Bateman can get as dirty as him, but he's replacing the heart that Bateman brought to your side. Like, honestly, I reckon the loss of Bateman, now you can debate till the cows come home as to why he left, rah. I personally think if he had got an extension, he would have stayed, but I just think that the Raiders couldn't afford him. I think that you since then have been struggling to find that heart, and Hudson Young and Tapine seem to have gotten that heart back in the squad. What do you reckon about that, Timmy?
Yeah, big time. But Beto, you talk about intangibles, about what he brought to a footy club, what he brings to a club, and even players another Englishman, but like what James Graham brought, you can't measure in statistics. And Hutto, I said, he's down that avenue of you just want to play with him. You know he'll get up for you. You know if he's by your side, he won't let you down. He's huge. And there aren't many match-winning forwards in the NRL. I mean, especially if we're not including hookers. He's a match winner in a side that doesn't have a lot of X factor.
Yeah.
And it's scary to think, I also think you've got another one of those true match winners in Trey Mooney, the young guy. Once he gets into first grade, these two, they could be real, Bash brothers for the next few years in Canberra. They could build something special out of them.
I think, depending on how the rest of the season goes, we've still got plenty of games to go. But if Ricky makes the 8, I actually think they've weathered the storm of this rebuild much better than yesteryear. I think the Raiders from 10 years ago, if they were to go through this kind of drama and, players and leaving, going or whatever, they would just fall apart as a club and then have to kind of rebuild again. Whereas I think Ricky has done an outstanding job. And we've been critical of Ricky. There's been times where I feel like he's been a bit too heavy-handed with his methods. But at the end of the day, he has managed to turn it around. Even Xavier Savage, I feel like Xavier Savage, although he's still got a few errors in his game, I do feel he's maturing each week. He's making smarter decisions. He's getting used to the footy. So the NRL standard of footy. Yeah, I think Ricky deserves a massive rap. And I think that although I probably wouldn't have given him 3 years, if the market had pressured the Raiders to force that hand, then I understand it. But 2 years at least, I would give Ricky as a re-signing. That's how well I think he's handled this, and I think he's matured massively as a coach.
And it is interesting. I mean, if we were sitting here a year ago talking about this, we would have said, why the hell isn't Tapine and Hudson Young playing minutes? Why is Hudson struggling to get into this team? And I feel like I'm thinking about that right now with CHN. I mean, does history tell us that in a year or so, Ricky will have him firing, playing his best footy as well? I personally think Tapine is the best forward in this competition.
Hudson Young got dropped earlier this year.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting because it's easy for me to say because it's hindsight, but sometimes I do feel like Ricky can be a bit heavy-handed with that stuff. But Tapine has turned into the form front row of the comp, no doubt about that. Hudson Young has been outstanding, so it's hard to argue against Ricky's methods. It's really hard to argue against it when these guys are playing him and Tapine. We all remember the drama that went through there. There was a period there, I thought Tapine was gone. I thought he was going to leave for sure. Papali'i didn't look as happy there in the front row, but they've managed to turn it around, and I think that the whole squad, including Ricky, deserve a massive, massissive rap for being able to turn it around. You're right, though. It is a bit concerning that the Titans were able to score 24 points. But, at the end of the day, they've beaten the Melbourne Storm. They've taken it to nearly most teams that they've played against. So ever since they went 1-7, they've been a top 8 side pretty much. It's just that 1-7 start that killed you.
Yeah, and the one that deserves a little bit of a shout out as well is Zachy Wolford, who he got us out of a real pickle because when we lost Josh Hodgson early on in the year, we lost Sleeva Havili over the off-season, and it was poor roster management in the sense that we didn't have a backup hooker. Now, there was a period there for about 2 or 3 games where Tommy Starling was playing as an 80-minute man, and Ricky Shute had shown for a couple of years now that he didn't want Starling, didn't think he was an 80-minute player. He loved his impact off the bench in sort of 50 minutes. Really, we were short of a hooker. Zach Wolford came from nowhere. I think he might have been playing for Newtown or someone earlier on in the year. He came, and while he's not a star, he's not going to win your games. On bugger all money, he's come in and playing that first sort of 35 minutes for us, even more at times. And at a time where they were really looking to go to the market mid-season to try and find any hooker to help out, giving Tommy a hand. Wolford's come in and done the job exactly what Ricky's needed. So, perfect.
Absolutely. Now, on to Whiten. Where does Whiten's career sit for you? I feel like he's in this really strange space. Like, anything that the Raiders do well, it's on the back of him. Whether it's a kick chase, whether it's a big tackle, whether it's a great run. And he's an interesting spot because he's a Clive Churchill winner. He's been in a grand final. But when we talk about, the Munsters and, even the Dylan Browns as well, I feel like sometimes because he's in Canberra, he doesn't maybe get the same love, I guess, as a lot of the other players. But he's a premier player now, and I think he's kind of proven that over the last couple of years. He had a bit of a dip at the start of this year, but he's really bounced out of it. Where do you put Whiten? And also, are you surprised that he hasn't re-signed yet?
I think it's unfortunate for Jack that he has played so well the last few years, but he's got the Clive Churchill, he's got the Dally M. I would argue that they're probably the two most controversial Dally M's of recent history. The most controversial Dally M of recent history by a fair whack, I think it's fair to say. And I think it's one of the more controversial Clive Churchills. There was, apparently Maria Hargraves was told he had the award moments before. So I think unfortunately for Jack, people focus on how he won those over his actual performances.
Yeah, because he's got to put himself at least in the conversation.
You've got to be playing well to even be to be in that conversation. Yeah. Exactly right, which he did. And I think people forget as well. It took Darren Lockyer 2 or 3 years to move to 5'8". It's taken Jack Whiten, I would say, less time to be better at 5'8". Than the transition time it took Lockyer to move there. I think Jack... To be better than he was at fullback, you mean? Yeah, well, I would say that Jack, when he got moved to 5'8", personally, I thought it was going to be a train wreck. He didn't have the passing game, he didn't have the kicking game, I didn't think it was going to work. I would say that Jack's transition to 5'8", it was probably quicker than Darren Lockyer's back in the day.
I think he won a premiership in his second year.
Lockyer,
yeah.
When did he move there? Wasn't it 04 or not?
I think, they won in 06.
They won in 06. Okay, sure. But they went within a bee stick of winning a comp in there his first year at 5'8". Second? Yeah, he won a Dally M. He had a Dally M and a Clive within 2 years of moving to 5'8".
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's a fair argument. I think maybe because Lockie's one of the GOATs, it's when as soon as you say that, you go, whoa. But
that's the point I'm making.
Yeah.
I think that we need to appreciate the transition that Jack has made, and once again, with all due respect to Lockie, a team of stars as well.
That's a good point.
Raiders didn't really have that. They were a bottom 8 team when he moved to 5'8". All of a sudden, they're playing in a grand final.
You're right, Guru. His first year of 5'8" was 2019.
Yeah. And I think for listeners as well, you're not saying he's a better 5'8" than Lockie.
Not in any way, shape or form. Yeah. But I think people need to appreciate how hard it is to make that transition to a key position.
Yeah.
And you can talk more about it. Before he moved to 5'8", I didn't even know what position Jack was, whether he was a better fullback or a centre either. So he's moved to a completely different position, which personally I didn't think he was going to be able to do.
If I recall correctly, I think I liked him as a centre. I think.
That's my vibe as well.
Yeah, I don't know though. I can't remember.
Yeah, he was a gun centre, and centre is probably his best position, but particularly at a club like Canberra where they were lacking stars, he was too good to sit outside there. You had to get him in a key position. Fullback, I thought, was arguably his best position, but again, they were a little bit short on halves. They thought, we need to get Jack's hands on the ball as much as we can. He went in there with not a lot of really halves experience. He debuted in the NRL on the wing. He's been all over the place. And you touched on his evolution as a 5'8". His kicking game took time to come. It's come along in leaps and bounds, particularly short kicking game. He's always had the big boot on him, and he's always been able to send the ball a long way, but his finesse of his short kicking game has come so far. And I think you're right, Kempy. Obviously, a little bit biased being from down the Canberra area. They do get overlooked in terms of if he was at a Melbourne, probably not a Melbourne Storm, a Sydney Roosters or a Brisbane Broncos, his name would be front page of the paper every week. But no one gives a rat's about us poor old Canberra folks. So. Well, I'm actually not from Canberra for the record, but
it's out of sight, out of mind
exactly
kind of stuff.
Right.
If he was playing for the Roosters, he would be fucking adored.
And I think that if he was also playing in a Sydney club, we would also appreciate more that he moved to 5'8" when he never was a 5'8". It's been 4 years. He's had like 3 different halfbacks. He's gone Caesar, he's gone Williams, now he's got Fogarty.
I know.
Georgie,
People hate when I say this. A lot of Raiders fans get on me for this. I still think the letting go of Caesar was a bad decision. Like, I thought he was a good solid 7 and he complemented Whiten fantastically. But Raiders fans hate when I say that shit. Anyway, as a Raiders fan, do you hate that? Nothing? I don't like it. So you don't reckon he was good for Whiten?
No.
Really?
Oh, he was okay, and he had some moments, but I thought Georgie Williams coming in was a vast improvement.
Yeah. Oh, look.
I see what you're saying.
Individually,
I see what you're saying as an organising half alongside Jackie, who loves to run the ball and play a bit wider.
Yeah.
I get that for sure.
Individually, obviously, I think George Williams is a better footy player.
Yeah.
I just thought Caesar complemented Whiten really well, but Raiders fans don't want to borrow when I say that. Chotrich, I think he's starting to find that form again. Really been really solid. Albert Hopewadi, I really like him. I think he offers a lot of like good meterage out of his end. He's a big boy. What is he? 6'1", 2? Fucking big shoulders. Fuck. Things are looking good. Now next year it's going to be interesting to see what the Croker situation, what happens there. Like, he'd be on a fair whack surely. We haven't really heard anything. Obviously, he's injured at the moment, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do next year with Croker, because it's a fair whack of money. I mean, I think he deserves it. He signed it. It's whatever. But Adam Elliott, 141 metres, 4 tackle breaks, 22 tackles, 141 metres off 12 runs as well. It's pretty good.
Did he get injured, Adam Elliott?
Yeah, he's got a hip issue. I'm not sure on the extent of it at this stage, but there's something there. So I don't know if he'll. Yeah.
But outside of that, like if you discount maybe the late charge from I never felt like when I was watching the game, before the game, I thought the Titans might surprise them. But during the game, outside of maybe a 10-minute period, I never really felt like the Raiders were in trouble, which is a good, they went away, they got the job done. So
we already sort of spoke about it. Xavier Savage, he did some really good things in that game, but he still just has those 1 or 2 raw moments.
More than 1 or 2, mate.
Well,
jeez.
the one the other day where he's getting better. Yeah. And you know what? I don't know how you feel, probably different, but I feel like he's matured a little bit quicker than what I thought he would. I thought it would be a bit of a clusterfuck all year, but there was that moment there where Jack kicked off the scrum, was it? And it went 50 metres down, but it sat on his own, and at full pace he tried to scoop it up with one hand instead of just diving on the ball and zero tackle. But it'll all be part of his journey. I think he's heading in the right direction. I was pretty negative on him at the start.
He had a few things. He shot off the line for the Tana Boyd try. There was a bomb he jumped for when there was no one around him. He dropped it. And the long run, it'll do him wonders. He's going to be a star, but I'm so concerned. Like, week 1 of finals, if we do happen to get there, I'll just be terrified going, like, being honest, he can lose us a finals game, particularly a tight, grindy game. He can also win it for us, and that's the gamble you take.
Yeah.
But like, week in, week out, there's a lot of things he's got to sort out.
Yeah. I can, like, he still has those errors, as I said. He still has a few errors in his game, but each week I do feel like he's taken that little step forward, I personally think he's matured massively since his first few games. Got to remember, this guy's, 19 years old?
Yeah.
Like, he's a rookie. It's easy to say as a non-fan, because as a fan, you're like, I don't want to lose any games. I think he'll be better for it. Like, I think that, gets through this year, has a big preseason. I think next year he's going to be a beast.
Yeah.
Like an absolute beast.
It's a good investment playing.
For sure.
And I also think there's a good chance that this will just be who he is. I think he will be a bit of a wild card footballer. I think that's fair to say. And, when it works, it'll be sensational and you'll absolutely love him. And there will be tears of seasons where he goes on 10 weeks where he's just untouchable.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be that sort of a guy.
Absolutely. Definitely a possibility for sure. I mean, if he can clean it up,
Yeah.
Lethal.
fuck me dead. He'll be if he can clean up just those errors and get other things like positioning right, he can be anything he wants to be. It's all up to him. He could be the best fullback in the comp. That's honestly, athletically, in my opinion, how much of a gift he has. And I'm not saying, I don't know about footy-wise ability, but athletically, he's probably as athletic, well, maybe Tom Trbojevic is the only one if you were taking the size, but a state champion runner with the footwork that he has and the size that he has, he can at least challenge that top 5 fullback position. I think he has the physical capabilities. It's just a matter of whether the footballing capabilities catch up. Because we have to remember, 19 years old and he's already doing some pretty incredible things. Now on to the Titans. Fuck me dead, man. Honestly.
I don't want to hear that for a second time.
I'm just trying not to have an aneurysm.
It shook me. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I want to say it's getting better, but I don't know if it is.
Well, that's the thing. So someone left a comment on YouTube, and they were respectful. Like they weren't bad about it, but they were like, "How can you guys be so negative on the Titans when we lost by 10 or whatever points? Like, and we've been in games and we only just lost this." But it's like, I feel like that kind of is evidence that your standards have dropped so low that you're willing to just go. It's like I used to deal with it all the time with the Broncos. So like when we were struggling in those years, and people were like, "Oh, we lost by 6 to the Penrith Panthers." Or 10, I'm like, that's how far our standards have fallen, that we're sitting here happy that we lost by 6 to someone in the NRL. And that always comes off a team that, you're just desperate to find some hope in something. Look, we'll talk about the positive things first. The positive things first is I think Aaron Clark is a great 13. The negative thing is, we've been saying on the start of the season, he's not a 9. Now, the coach came out and said that they've always been wanting to put Aaron Clark at 13, which is a bit strange.
I wanted to stick to the positives with you, but yeah, he came out and said pre-game, we would have liked to have got him there earlier in the year, but we needed a good 9. His best position is 13.
Now, if you are avid watchers of this podcast, you will recall me and the great Gurino perplexed because earlier in the year, before the season had started, Holbrook had said that Clark has the 9 jersey. And so when I see stuff like that, I'm just like, look, things can change for sure. Maybe he got 10 games in and at that point he realised he's not a 9 and I want to get him to 13, but I don't have Booth there. So that could be true. But when I see that, I'm like, it's like, is something going to change again? Like, I don't know. I feel like if we could see that he's a 13, how come... I just would be frustrated as Titans fans. I would be feeling like I personally feel like, and I think Holbrook is a high-quality coach. He's proven it. He's won premierships over in the Super League. But I think this season, Holbrook has made a few errors, like clear-cut errors, in my opinion.
And I thought that comment was very disappointing. Like, it just makes no sense. He came out and said that Aaron Clark was their 9. He let go of Mitch Rain at the back end of last season.
Can you Google those comments, please? The Aaron Clark is our 9, just so that we can be really clear about what was said. But I am like 95% sure that he did say that.
Yeah. And they let go of Mitch Rain last year because seemingly they had a plan for hooker. And it was Aaron Clark. I don't know. It's just the other thing I didn't understand without, putting the shoe into Holbrook. Their back rowers swapped sides after 25 minutes.
Yeah.
What was going on?
What was that? Why we've got David Fafita, an absolute juggernaut, who we're going to move him off Jamal Fogarty and put him on Jack Whiten?
I just want to know what changed in the space of 25 minutes to just... Well, it was mid-second half or early, whatever. Like, they're changing something up, but within 25 minutes.
Why is that the thing to change? I just don't...
There's got to be a reason. There's got to be a reason, surely.
Do you reckon pre-game, or do you reckon it was just...
mate, I don't know. I'm just saying. They don't just make changes willy-nilly.
When was the last time you saw a team... Like, it wasn't injury, it wasn't HIA. They literally just swapped sides.
Yeah, I don't know. There's got to be a reason for it. Maybe they identified something in the video where...
Yeah. I actually... Because it came after a scrum, and I watched it and thought... Oh, this is good. They're getting Fafita involved. They're letting him roam, and then he didn't move, and I was like, oh, fuck, surely not.
Well, is it maybe, was he on Sexton's side? Maybe they're just trying to get him with Sexton?
Maybe.
Yeah, or maybe Tanner Boyd was playing well. They were trying to get him outside Tanner Boyd. I don't know. I don't know.
Tanner was playing left for most of it.
What I think, and I've said this earlier, get him in the front row.
I think you have to now.
You just have to. It has been too long. You clearly, and this is no disrespect to Sexton. He is way too early in his career, and Tanner as well. But you clearly don't have the halves to get him the ball where he needs to be. You just don't. Put it this way. If he was outside Cleary, do you think he'd be that quiet? No, he'd be getting the fucking ball, hitting crazy lines. I think you get him in the front row and you just go, mate, 20 minutes of your best.
You know the only thing about that? Even when they do play to a bit of shape and have him running the lead, they play out the back of him all the time. It's like, why?
It's you know what it is? It's inexperienced halves without an experienced halves being able to tell them, hit short for the first 20 minutes, that will be there. But when you're an experienced half, you want that big play every time. You want that try. Like, it looks like there's space there. Let's hit that try. Whereas experienced halves knows that. I mean, put it this way. How many times have you watched the good teams and you'll see they'll hit a lead runner and you go, oh, fuck, there was someone out the back. There were numbers in that. It's because, like, for every one of those times where it was a clear try, they're building pressure. Like, they're building pressure. And I guarantee usually they score on the next two or three plays, or at least in the next 4 to 5 minutes. But it's like Joey. Like, Joey talks about it, where he would be planning from minute one. Cam Smith, these guys would literally identify players and say, like, Cam has openly said, like, there would be things that I would do in the first 5 minutes that I'd be waiting to pay dividends in the last 75 minutes. He'd say that's why I sometimes didn't want to be I always wanted to be an 80-minute player, because I was always working on things that would pay in the end. What do you got there?
So I probably have to go to the depths of Google to find that exact quote, but I did find on the Titans website at the back end of last year, it's like an article with Aaron Clark quoted about how he's fighting to be the starting hooker with Tanner Boyd, Aaron Booth, and Will Smith, and he's like literally quoted saying, "If I can do this in the offside, it'll give me the best chance to be the starting hooker," etc. So he was training at hooker in
So this, I mean, if that's not enough evidence, I absolutely, because I remember us having a segment on here, me and Guru talking about.
We spoke for ages about it.
How Aaron Clark has been literally handed the jersey, and like we thought that he was more of a utility. Anyway, it is what it is. Yeah, so, and what's crazy is, so Holbrook has come out as well and said that Foran can't get here quick enough. And it's just like, bro. And also he's admitted that maybe they shouldn't have let go of Fogarty.
Well, that's the thing for me. I look at this Titan side and I'll go, he butchered the 9 position. He's now admitted they shouldn't have let Fogarty go. I think his best player, Tino, they've played him out of position all season.
Tino's a front rower. He's a front rower. Unless he's in Origin, it's a much faster game and he can play a role there. But we saw by game 3, he was moved into the front row. Yeah.
You got Jaden Campbell coming off. I understand he's come back from injury, but like, name me 4 more key important positions in a team, and all of them have been a train wreck. They've got all these quality centres that can play, and they're chopping and changing. Like this team lacks consistency and reliability. Is Corey Thompson fucking invisible? How is he not in this team?
Yeah, that's strange to me. He's like arguably one of the most consistent wingers in the comp.
In the comp.
And he might have had a game or two
poor.
Yeah. And he might have come back and had 1 or 2 games that are poor, but Corey Thompson's a guy you stick with. Like, if anyone's earned a right to say he's got that spot, it's a Corey Thompson. Yeah, look, it's a disaster year. There's no sugarcoating it. It's been an absolute disaster for the Titans this year, and one of the only shining lights is guys like Jojo Fafita coming through, but the real shining light is Tino. Like, honestly, that bloke, whatever you're paying him, like, give him a few brown paper bags, seriously.
But like, I look at a Tino and the way that he's playing. What is he, 22?
Yeah, can you keep that?
He can't do this for 15 years. He can't do this for 10 more years.
No.
I thought the shining light for me was Bowie Fermor. I thought he was fantastic again in a very ordinary side, and I thought in contrast with him and David Fafita on either edge there, the difference was that when Fermor runs a line when he knows he's not getting the ball, the hands are up, he's running a million miles an hour, and if it doesn't come to him, they play out the back and he's attracting defenders.
Yeah.
When Fafita knows he's not getting the ball, just jogs through the line.
Yeah.
The defender's like, he's not getting it, and they just slide straight out the back.
Yeah.
Now, can you imagine if Fafita is steaming onto that as a decoy runner, how good that makes life for the blokes out the back? All the defenders jam because they're going, I'm not getting stuck one-on-one with Fafita. he just moseys on through the line.
It's honestly
so poor.
And he dictates Fafita dictates when he gets the ball by how he runs in those moments, which is so backwards. It should be the halves dictating who gets the ball, who's in the best spot there.
Because if Fafita wants it, he'll get deeper and steam onto it. If he doesn't want it, he gets ahead of the half, and they don't have an option to pass it to him.
It's the age-old tale of one of the most talented forwards you could ever. Like, honestly, that physique Fafita has is absolutely generational. Like, it would destroy any generation. And then Beau Fermor, he's just a battler. Like, like he's not gifted with all this crazy genetics that Fafita has. But unfortunately, I personally just think you've just got to put Dave Fafita in the front row because he has to, because it's a mixture of two things. Yes, I agree with you guys. Some of the lines he runs are just not good enough, for sure. But I also do think that the halves don't give enough good ball to him as well.
Sure.
And so I think you just erase that. As a front rower, you erase that. And you just go, Fafita, Dave, we just want you to go as hard as you can for 20 minutes. And then the good thing about that as well is, like, there can be no, like, Fafita can't say, well, I didn't get the ball or whatever. Like, there can be no grey area for both parties to be in and be like, you need to do more. And then Fafita saying, well, I'm not getting the ball. It can just be like, no, you're a front row. You can literally get the ball whenever you want. That's what I think should happen.
There was one of the commentators said yesterday, and I agree with them. They sort of said, they should be telling Fafita whenever there's a play the ball and they're on the front foot, jump into dummy half and go. And I actually agree with them. However you get him the ball, just get him the goddamn ball. But is that not the most absurd thing to say about a back rower of all time? And as crazy as would any of us push back on that? If it gets him the ball, get him the fucking ball.
Well, he scored tries off Scoots.
Yeah, but I mean, can you imagine a world where we're sitting here going, geez, I wish that Boyd Cordner would get the dummy half ball.
Yeah, it's so true. That's another thing is so start of second half. I wrote this before the game had finished. This was literally like the first 2 minutes after. I wrote, second half, Titans half had 2 sets coming out of their own end and threw nonsense cutout balls, like over the sideline and then an error. And I said, that's where they just lost the game. Like, that's where they lost the game. They had the Raiders under the pump. They had withstood a bunch of defence, and then they make these crazy unforced errors. Like the Campbell one, I love Campbell's playing ability. He's so impressive. But like to spin it out over the sideline on tackle one, it's like far out. And then the other one was it Sexton or so? Anyway, I don't know who the other one was, but it was an unforced error, totally not needed. And it's like these are the sets where you just get into the grind. It's literally you're behind by 8 points. All you need to do is just get the ball down the other end, get into the grind. And that's the problem I have with the Titans is like they're not willing. They don't want to get in the grind. And I don't know whether that's because Holbrook is a Super League coach and it's very attacking orientated and he likes that real attacking footy. But it just, I don't know. It's tough.
I'll tell you, I find the most frustrating thing with the Titans is so often, just going through some of their games this year, they lost to Parramatta by 4, lost to they beat the Warriors by 2, lost to the Raiders by 2, lost to Eels again by 6, lost to Manly by 8, lost to Penrith by 10 or whatever it was. I get to the end of these games and I go, geez, they got within 12 points of them. It's a good effort, but they're always within 10 or 12 points. The vast majority of times they're getting close, but they're not improving. Sometimes I wonder if teams show up to the Titans and go, fuck it. We don't have to switch on 100% here. I feel like no one ever plays their best game against the Gold Coast Titans.
Yeah, it's tough.
Which is harsh to say. I feel awful saying that, but they've lost 5 games in a row. Oh, heaps more than that. But so many of these games,
they've only won 3 games all season.
But you look at the last few weeks, they haven't lost by more than 12 points.
But if you watch those games though, it's usually they get the winning team gets this big lead, and then the Titans just spin it and just play.
But that's what I'm saying.
Footy.
The scorelines fill you with hope that there's improvement, but then you actually watch the games on the eye test, you're just they're getting worse. If
you watch the score is 36-24, but the Raiders were always in control of this game. If anything, the Raiders probably could have scored more points. They had them down on their half for 20 minutes defending in the second half. Matter of fact, I think they were barely even tackled in their opposition's 20 metres.
It's the same. It's the same as the week before against the Bulldogs. I think at half time, Canterbury were leading 24-4 or something, or there was something along those lines, and they scored all their points in the second half. Just same old story. The score line indicates we were in this. In reality, you weren't.
It's really, really disappointing year for the Titans. Seriously. I mean, glass half full, though. The positive thing is I think Foran's impact on this team is going to be astronomical. Astronomical. I can't see a world where he goes there and they don't actually fulfill well, at least get close to fulfilling their potential. I really do.
What's their potential, you reckon? Like you
top
put Foz
8
in there?
Top 8, for sure. For sure. I think they can be a top 8 side.
Yeah, right.
I really do. I think they've got great backs. I think Moe Fotuaika and Tino in the front row is outstanding. You got Liu, who's a premiership winning front rower. I think they could fight around the 8 spot.
So this is just the second half, but they were only tackled in their opposition 25 times.
5 times
In the second half, yeah. First half
what I
was a
mean.
little better, they about 21, but yeah, 5.
And it wasn't like the Raiders were like ultra line speed and hemming them in. It was just like error after error after. Anyway, sorry, Titans fans, but it's just been a really disappointing year. It really has. And I think everyone, even at the Titans, would agree it's been an extremely disappointing year.
They're one of those teams that you want them to be successful.
For sure.
Because I love what they do. I love they've backed in all this young talent. They're planning for the future. It's great, but I don't know.
It's just frustrating because we said it at the start of the year. If we can see it, they had that massive error of just like fully putting all their eggs in the Ash Taylor basket, and then they made the same mistake just directly after. Like as soon as Taylor leaves, they do the exact same thing. They move on an experienced half and give the jersey to the young guy, and they're in the same position. And it just doesn't. I don't understand how that happens.
And I love the signing of Foz. I think it's going to be great. But signing Foz stifles one of these other young superstars. Like someone's going to miss out on being in that team, whether it's AJ Brimson, whether it's Campbell, Sexton. One of them has to miss now.
Yeah, but you just got to like.
I agree, you got to, but it's like I think they'll lose one of those guys off the back of it.
Yeah, but unfortunately, they have
That's
to.
the position they're in.
They
Yeah.
have to. Like they just absolutely have to.
And whichever one of those three goes somewhere else, I think they'll be successful.
Oh, for sure. They're all good players. But like AJ Brimson, I think he continues to deliver even when they're struggling. But like Sexton just needs a couple years. Like it's right there. You can see the ability for sure. Anyway, on to the next game. Rabbitohs v Sharks. Rabbitohs get beaten by the Sharkies. So it's the Sharks v the Rabbitohs at Shark Park. What a win for the Sharkies. Nico Hines getting the job done. The Sharkies I tell you what, like, it's just really impressive to see how far they've come in such a short time. Like, they are so much better than the team that they were last year. They did this without Dale Finucane, like a key player for them. Even guys like Royce Hunt has forced his way into the starting side, and I know he went off after like 14 minutes or whatever. But like these are fringy, like guys that were on the fringe also last year. Craig Fitzgibbon has just been put in such good systems that they're getting the best out of them. Like even guys like Braden Hamlin-Uele, like he's been solid since he's been back, but before he got injured, he was outstanding for them. Outside of that, big news coming out of Sharks camp. It looks like Will Kennedy will miss 5 to 6 weeks.
He's having surgery on his ankle, and this has been confirmed by the Sharks.
Yeah, so it's 5 to 6 surgery on ankles. When did he do that injury? Because I feel he played the whole game.
Yeah, did it? It says in the article. I remember seeing him limping, and me and my mate were actually talking about, oh fuck, he could be in trouble next week. So it did happen in the game, but he did play the whole game. So it would have been late somewhere.
Because like his stats are like he's only had 8 runs. Must have happened relatively not too late because he didn't really have many runs. Anyway, shout out to Connor Tracy. I feel like we do that every week. But seriously, talk about a Mr. Fix-It. Jesse Raymond was good. Talakai, he was an absolute beast. He really, really was. I will say though, like the only not bad thing, but the only issue with Talakai's game is like big errors in crucial moments.
Yep.
Obviously the Origin situation happened. It was almost like 1-for-1 coming out of his own end. He's trying to do a good thing for his team, take a real tough carry, and he just loses the concentration for a split second. And it's actually what allowed the Rabbitohs back in the game. If Talakai holds onto that ball coming out of their end, they win it. Now, obviously, I still had Talakai in my team of the week because although it was a crucial error, he was just so good for them. So good. I don't think it erased, everything good he did.
Honestly, but if you took that error out, he was almost my player of the round. He made 110 post-contact meters.
Yeah, he was
at centre.
He was massive. 231 meters, so 22 runs. He averaged more than 10 meters a run. he averaged more than 5 post-contact metres a run. So the fact that the Sharkies got up, it's almost like, okay, he made that error, you can kind of move on. If the Sharkies lost, then obviously I think you could probably be like, wow, that really, really did cost him. But outside of that, I think Talakai, the more he plays at centre, the more we're going to see performances like this.
Not only that as well. Sorry, one more thing. Because I thought the South forward pack was really dominant in this game, and to combat that, Talakai just did so much work to help out his teammates, and he was always just getting on his front. It was, as a South fan, it was really frustrating to watch, but it was, I thought he was so good.
Oh, it's super frustrating because you're like, yeah, fuck yeah, the boys are on here. They got line speed, they're dominating. And then, boom, the whole set gets blown open by a good ball runner. What do you think about this game, Guru?
Just touching on quickly, you obviously said that, Kennedy could be out for a couple of weeks. Interesting to see what they do here. Lockie Miller, he made his debut a couple of weeks ago. It was unbelievable. Cade Dykes, the son of Adam Dykes, old Cronulla Sharks, Parramatta 5'8".
18th man on the weekend.
18th man on the weekend. I went back and had a look at their game, Newtown's game on the weekend. Lockie Miller played fullback in that. He only played 68 minutes. Not sure if there was an injury or something. But interesting enough, 2 weeks ago for the Jets, Miller was playing 5'8". Cade Dykes was playing fullback. So as much as Miller's got a run on the board from that game, at the end of the day, he's only played one more first-grade game than Cade Dykes, realistically. So it'll be interesting to see which direction they go, because seemingly Cade Dykes is the pick at
What's surprising, because
fullback
it's
in
like,
Reggie's.
you know, he killed it in his debut. He was outstanding.
But Dykes has been a very talented player for quite some time. So I'm keen to see
What decision they make.
which direction.
Because like they
do
could
go
have
with.
him as 18th man right now just for experience, like just to get around the boys, get used to warming up, get used to the environment. So yeah, huge call by Fitzgibbon. Who do you have as coach of the year, Toddy Payton or Fitzgibbon?
Todd.
Even though he had a bit more experience heading into this year than Craig, as in like he head coach of the Warriors.
Todd.
Todd?
Yeah.
Todd took a team that many were predicting for like a wooden spoon to title contenders. That's unheard of.
I'm only saying Todd as well because of the whole defensive thing. I know they've leaked a few points last month, but yeah, the turnaround from the Cows.
I got a Smoky. What about Kevy Walters?
Yeah, he's done well. No, I just think what Todd Payton's done has been.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just
in most years, I would say Kev wins it.
Because like
Most other years,
but to have two like rookie coaches to do what they did, amazing. Like
Ivan Cleary will lose like 2 games all year, like not even in the conversation.
yeah, 100%. Oh, I mean,
I also think it's crazy how we pick coach of the year before the season's finished. I really do think it should take finals into.
yeah, okay.
I mean, if the Sharks win a comp at the end of the year, it has to be Craig over Todd, for example.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's I've got Toddy as well, but I was just kind of throwing up, a few different names in that.
Cracking year for it.
Mate, such a good year. I tell you what, if this year's proved anything though, like the coaching depth, it just isn't there. Like you've got multiple clubs struggling to find like anyone. Like the Bulldogs still haven't landed no one. Serraldo's the most famous assistant coach of all time. Like seriously, whoever the Serraldo's manager is, he deserves a pay rise. He is so biggest. Like if he doesn't come out and absolutely kill it, people are going, oh no, you know what I mean? Like the pressure on him is going to be immense. Okay, back to the game. Cam McInnes, outstanding. Who else was good? Toby Rudolph, I thought was good. 51 tackles in the middle there. Nico Hines, obviously the match winner, the match sealer. I just love the way Hines plays. When the Sharkies are going really well, their attack is just so smooth. Like it's so exciting to watch. They're almost like, they're not really like the old school Sharkies that much. Like the old school Sharkies will like drag you down to their level and just fucking bash you. Whereas this Sharkies, it's a bit silkier, I reckon. I mean, it's still got your mongrels in the pack. There's no denying that, but they're a bit sharper. I still believe their outside backs at full strength are arguably the most underrated in the comp. Like I'd put them up there with easily. Like I'd put Katoa and Mulatalo up the best. I know Katoa didn't play on the weekend, but when you've got a guy like Connor Tracy coming in scoring a try run of 179 metres, pretty impressive. Outside of that, anyone else impress you for the Sharkies? Do you see? Are they a real title threat? Like confirmed 100% they can win the comp?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they can win it, but I think they'll go very close. I've got them and Penrith in the grand final at the moment.
Really?
Yeah.
The Sharkies, turn your porch
I
lights
just think
on.
winning that game the other night, like a huge win, South Sydney quality team, but that's the sort of game that I would have thought with Dale out, they probably lose. I thought that was a really good win. I've just got a good feeling about the Sharkies that they're starting to put something together here.
I think Ronaldo Mulatalo is going to be the first NRL player to win the AFL Mark of the Year.
Mate, that was a fucking take and a half. Holy shit. Mulatalo, he's just so deceptive for me. You know what I mean? Because he's not big and thick, but he's strong. And because he's so tall, you're like, oh, is he that quick? But he is. And then, like, have we really seen him get that aerial before? Like, probably, but I can't remember it. But that's like a Suwali or Israel Folau kind of jump. It was amazing. Mulatalo, seriously, going to be a real good winger for the Kiwis for sure. Really good winger.
Just one more there, Kempy on the Sharkies. Bloke we gave a rap to last week, vindicated us entirely. Andrew Fafita, I thought he won that game for the Sharks before Nico Hines did. He set up a try for Cam McInnes, which eventually was a no try, but with a really good offload. He then scored the try. I think it might have been the Sharkies' last try of the game. He then put immense pressure on the Trells. I think probably best shot at a match winner in extra time. I think he was at marker and just flew at him and did enough to deter him. I thought Fafita in 20 minutes, like, he's had impact this season. His impact in that 20 minutes was honestly match winning. Yeah. He was fantastic.
You're totally right. And I think one of the either coaches or admin came out and said he's like the heart and soul of the club. And like his journey, just the maturity that he's shown over the last couple of years is just amazing. And you're right, like his impact, his try reminded me of his grand final try. It really did. Like, we're looking vintage Fafita. And look, his body's banged up. You can tell it's banged up, but he still turns up every week, does what he can to get the job done.
And like that try as well, like he beat Cam Murray.
Yeah, I know.
How good was the celebration too? And you could tell how happy they all were for him as well. Like he's playing a special role in that team, I think.
It's it's going to be really interesting because isn't he off contract? Is it this year or next year? So he'd be on a massive wicket, I'd assume. It's going to be interesting to see like how do they keep him because he's not going to be.
Yeah, he's off contract now, so he can.
So hasn't re-signed for anyone next year.
No,
that's interesting. Wonder what he'll do. Do you think he'll retire?
Not the way he's playing now.
Yeah,
I think he'd get a 1 year extension with the Sharkies and
just at
see
like
it out there.
200-300K or something.
How old is he?
Max, like 200K maybe. Like you wouldn't give him 300K for 20 minutes off the bench, but the way he's playing this year,
he's got footy left in him.
33 years old.
Wow,
33.
Just turned 33. So we'll go into the next season as 33.
Okay. Yeah.
But, I mean, playing the role he's playing where he just has 20 minutes of impact. I just think he's so valuable Monday to Friday having in this team.
Yeah, absolutely. So massive win for the Sharkies. Really exciting times for them. Now, onto the Rabbitohs. We'll talk quickly about the call. It's not going to be talked about because it was only 3 minutes, but in my humble opinion, that send-off was absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. And it was a clear case of getting caught up in the emotion of the moment. It was a clear case of getting that tension getting to you instead of just taking a step back, and we're all guilty of it. But I thought that was really poor, and I think that they're really lucky that it was only the last 3 minutes. Because if that had been 50th minute, it would have been probably one of the worst calls I've seen in a very. I mean, I say that last week the Tigers, but I just saw that. I thought that call. Hey,
podium finish for
worst call in the last 2 seconds.
You could also argue, and this adds to your point even more, if it was in the 50th minute, you probably would have sent him for 10.
Definitely. He wouldn't have been sent off the field if that was 50th minute.
Yeah. But that's the thing, though, that if it's not in the 50th minute, he shouldn't send him.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a nothing thing, but I just thought it was a case of like, at least wait for the replays. Like, and you'll see, like, okay, yeah, it slipped up off his shoulder and hit his head, but he's all right. He's up, and fuck, send him 10 in the bin is fair enough for that.
It looked a lot worse than it was, and Burgess is only copping a week for it. And fair enough.
Good, which is crazy. You've got a week for something to get sent off. Back in the day, you'd literally kill a bloke, and they'd be like, 10 in the bin.
Also, to add to that, it was the 88th minute. Tom Burgess had just like been the best player for South probably the whole game, definitely in the golden point period. So he was fatigued as hell. Like, all those things come into it.
Wasn't it such a bizarre 3 minutes for Tom Burgess, extra time, he makes a line break. Then he makes a head-high tackle on halfway on the tram line on a winger and gets sent. Unbelievable.
Like if they pot the field goal after that run out of nowhere, he's an absolute hero. Instead, he gets sent off 30 seconds later. I
want to give a massive shout out to Tavita Totola. He has been such a leader. Did you come in your
like,
pants?
oh.
Matty just fucking blew in his pants. Jesus Christ. He has matured into such a leader, and I think some Rabbitohs fans would be like, why is Tom Burgess not starting, or even Daniel Saluka Fafita? But Tavita Totola has just matured so much over this season, and he's just been going about his work really quietly, hasn't been getting the plaudits for it, but he had a try, he had 22 runs. This is in 46 minutes. 46 minutes. A try, 22 runs, 172 metres, 70 post contact, 5 tackle breaks, a line break, 2 offloads, 30 tackles, 0 misses. Like, he is the reason you're in the game. Without Tavita Totola, you're not even... the Sharks probably win by at least 12 points. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. He deserves a massive rap for how much he's improved this season, and he's really grown into that leadership role. I felt like the Rabbitohs pack was a bit light a couple of years ago. I was a bit like, I don't think they can mix it with the best of them. They just don't have the size. Totola has come in, and ever since then, he's a big boy, obviously, but just matured, week in, week out. He's one of their most solid players, at least over the last month. I thought Keon was really, really good again, as usual. Cam Murray got through a mountain of work. Really interesting. So Latrell Mitchell got moved to centre. Was that because they lost Tass and they didn't have a centre to place there?
I think it might have been Anyway, yeah, we lost the centre.
Cartwright?
Yeah, I think it was Cartwright.
It was Cartwright.
Yeah, Cartwright.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I agreed with this call. You move your number one attacking weapon, arguably one of the best attacking weapons in the competition, to centre, to put Cody Nikorima, when Cody Nikorima has spent an entire career defending at 3. So if he can defend at 3, surely he can get the job done at 2 defender, which is the centre defender. I thought this was bizarre to me. Why move Latrell there? He is the heartbeat of your attack. Without him, he's just sitting on the edge there, just catching a cold. Now, I understand that, maybe he didn't want to put Nikorima in the centre position, but I think Latrell offers way more at fullback than he does at centre for the Rabbitohs specifically. Guru, what do you think about the Rabbitohs this game?
Yeah, I thought the Latrell one was a bizarre little move. Just who would have thought that losing Jed Cartwright would have such a domino effect? Yeah, I thought South. I love the way that Latrell got into that golden point and just game was on the line. He just wanted the ball constantly.
Yep.
I saw Fox League post a video of him missing the 3, shit form. But I feel like people were bagging him for missing the kicks. It's not like he didn't hit them well.
Yeah.
He struck them all.
Yeah.
You just don't get them all.
How many games has he fucking won over his career? It's come on. He had one night where he was literally 2 metres off. We have seen people miss how many drop goals over the years. People miss them. They're not easy. They're tough.
Fucking hard to get.
They're tough. It's not an easy feat. One game where he didn't miss them by a mile. I think it was one that might have shanked. Outside of that, it was relatively close. And also, weren't 2 of them from 45 metres away?
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah. Bit strange. But yeah, so I thought the Rabbitohs, although they lost the game, I thought they played some pretty good footy. What did you reckon about the game, Timmy?
Yeah, few stood out for me. The Latrell thing was pretty perplexing. So Cartwright went off 31st minute. Was Latrell there for was it 50 minutes at centre?
He was there for a while.
We sort of came in and out a little bit, but predominantly at centre.
I think for the back, the last 25 minutes or so, I feel like he was at centre for most of it. Yeah. That was when the game was on the line.
He had 6 runs for 62 metres in this game, and even with spending a bit of time at centre, it is very Latrell, where he doesn't come in and out of games, but you need to be getting him as much ball as you can, particularly in the condition he's in. He looks unbelievable. Just the other one I want to shout out, because I heard a little fun fact over the weekend on Alex Johnston, who said we got into the top 10 try scorers of all time at, I think, 27 years old. You boys might have heard it, but he was the Ducks at Endeavour Sports High School. 92 ATAR. So, which I was like, that's awesome to hear in a rugby league player. We've got a switched on player there somewhere. But one of the big, obviously, sport high schools and rugby league schools, Cleary boy.
And I could be wrong, but I thought there was a time there where they thought he might be a better cricketer than a rugby league player.
I used to verse him in cricket. I remember one day...
He was a good bowler, wasn't he?
Nah, in our comp one day, I think he got a double 100 in about 36 overs. He's murdered him. Yeah, he was a
Wow.
gun cricketer. He was never going to be like a test cricketer, but he was always very talented.
Very talented.
One of them freaks
He was
that's
probably
good at
never going to be
everything.
the highest try scorer of all time ever.
That's a good point. And wasn't he in an ad with Greg Inglis or something when he
Yeah,
was
they
13?
was GI.
Yeah, they morphed him into him.
Crazy.
That's crazy. Far out. Yeah, look, Rabbitohs fans, you lost obviously, but I don't think it's anything to worry about at all. Like you're playing a team that's coming third, that's red hot. You took it all the way to the death. If Latrell does nail that, you win it. It's away from home. You're still building your combinations. I was impressed by the Rabbitohs. I really was, and I thought their forward pack really turned up and gave it to them. And I really struggle to see how they're going to fall out of the 8 unless there's a serious injury somewhere. I think that they, I think they stay in the 8 for sure.
You don't want to play them in the finals.
No
You want
way.
to avoid
Not a
sets.
Cody Walker and a Latrell Mitchell. Like when we talk about magic in their hands, those two players in the whole comp probably have the most magic in their hands.
Yeah.
Like seriously, the things that they can do are just a piss take. Like Cody Walker last year in nearly any other year is winning the Dally M. He was unbelievable. Although Lockie Ellis was a little bit quiet this game, I still think he's growing quite well. I think he's, what's really interesting is he's almost in the same boat as like a Toby Sexton, and yet look how progressed he has become. Now, granted, he's in a better squad, but look, I think Rabbitohs fans should be pretty happy with Lockie Ellis' progression this year. Like, I really think he withstood the tough times earlier in the year, and they've come out the other end. Like right now, the Rabbitohs are sitting on 24 points. They genuinely could still make the top 4. Like all they need to do, let's say they go on a run and win 4 of their last 5. Now I know they've got a crazy run home. I'm pretty sure they've got a crazy run home. I put it this way: if we were to mark Rabbitohs' year right now, I would say successful year. With everything they lost, I would say it was a successful year.
Yeah, I sort of thought they'd be 6th, 7th around that mark at the start of the season, but I think they're a better 6th or 7th than what I thought they'd be.
Because the comps got harder.
Yeah.
Like I was comparing to last year where, they may be 6th or 7th, but this top 8, it's a fucking tough top 8.
7th last year,
Oh,
bang average.
yeah.
I was going to say, like, after the game, as a South fan, like, I wasn't even upset that we lost because all I saw was a forward pack that dominated. We pretty much dominated all the stats. It was just our halves had a couple of quiet games, and that can change in an instant. So
For sure.
I think,
and also, like, you didn't have your fullback at fullback. Like,
yeah.
If we all know that Cody Walker just works so well with Latrell, so I just don't get that breaking that combination up for anything. Like I'd put a back rower in there before I put a.
It wasn't like there was numerous injuries that forced it. It was one injury to a centre.
Doesn't make it just. I understand. Demetrio seems to be a big fan of Cody Nikorima, which is like fair enough. Like but you need Latrell at fullback now. Maybe Latrell was struggling with injury. We don't know, and if that was, apologies. But just from the outside looking in, you keep. Honestly, there's almost nothing that would make me move Latrell from fullback. Literally almost nothing.
Well, what would you have done then? Would you have played Nikorima there? Do you
Probably
move?
just Nikorima at centres.
Just chuck him out there?
Just chuck a wide running forward out there and put a bigger body in the wide running forward position. Let's look at their bench. They had...
Well, my suggestion was going to be, we've obviously seen whenever Cam Murray gets shifted out there, he always does a cracking job. I don't know if you want to lose him from the middle, though.
But, like, he can still do that same job in attack.
Yeah, fair.
You know what I mean? So you just put Jairo in the centres, push Murray to a... you know what I mean? There's things that you could do. Like, it was just surprising, really surprising. You've got Moale. He's a... No, you got Havili that you could put at 13.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
And I mean, you would have to assume that if Latrell was carrying an injury or something like that,
Get him off.
But then he also came to extra time and he wanted the ball in his hands every 3 seconds. So
Wow. So really interesting. I mean, it's easy for us in hindsight or whatever, but I personally believe that, like, if you don't believe Latrell is crucial, like without Latrell, they are not going anywhere near the finals footy, or not finals footy, but they're not going anywhere near making a challenge. It has to be at fullback. Like, he is literally the key to anything that they want to succeed. But again, I thought it was an impressive performance for the Rabbitohs. Now, on to the fucking match of the round. Fuck. Look. I was 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was like, we've got a big loss coming. And then we beat Para, and I was like, you know what? I think we might be on a bit of a run here. We might be building something real nice. This is what you get when you turn up and you think that you're going to get the job done. This is what you get when you don't appreciate the opponent and respect that they are an NRL side. A really disappointing loss, to be honest. Now, obviously, it's not catastrophic. It's not panic stations, but it was an extremely, extremely disappointing loss, in my opinion. I thought that some real key players played, not great, unfortunately. I thought Reno didn't have his best game. I thought Ezra Mam definitely, probably had his worst game. Now, look, Ezra's a rookie. This is always going to happen. I remember in one of my early years, I didn't have a terrible game, but I was a bit quiet. And Bennett pulled me in and he was like, "You've been reading the papers, haven't you?" And I hadn't been really reading the papers, but I'd just become a bit too maybe complacent in my ability. And I'm not saying Ezra Mam has done that, but maybe he just came into that game a bit too relaxed. Maybe again, not complacent. I don't think that at all. But he may have come in just a bit relaxed, thinking that things are going to come and it's going to be okay. It's against the Tigers, so I'm actually backing Mam to come out and have a fantastic game next week. Outside of that, Tessie New, although he had some good moments, I thought he was had a couple of errors that really hurt. Now, one of them was a bit of a tough catch out the front with one hand, but then the next out the back ball he had his hand out and he caught it with one hand. And I'm like, well, if that ball keeps going out and you're only catching with one hand, you need to change your line. Because, maybe Reynolds is passing poor passes. We don't know. But if Reynolds is hitting there, you need to get where Reynolds is getting. So I thought Tessie had a bit of a mixed bag, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that he's going to be like that next week or whatever. I just thought that there was a few players that, just struggled a bit. They just didn't have the same energy, because when they did, there was a 10-minute period in the second half where they played like we know they can play. They completely dominated the Tigers and had control of the game. Outside of that, massive congratulations to Mariner. I thought he showed a lot of promise. If I'm being very nitpicky, I think that in time, instead of just immediately running the ball, he'll look to see the option outside, see if the winger is free. But outside of that, he looks super athletic. He looks strong in contact. He only missed one tackle. He made 11 of them. He had 3 tackle breaks. Really exciting time for the Broncos. I thought Flegler was outstanding. I thought Haas was outstanding. So, look, disappointing week, but it may be just the reminder to let us know, we aren't as far away from last year as we thought we were. We can't just rock up and think we're going to get the win. What do you guys think of this game?
Yeah, I think it might be a good little loss for you, to be honest with you, heading into finals. If you're going to lose a game, you're probably better off losing it to a team that's out of finals contention. You're not giving a win to the Chooks, Raiders, one of these sides. And I mean, as I said, I don't think this will be terrible for you, because at the end of the day, as much as we feel like the Broncos have gone to a new level, you are still a young squad. So I think it could be a good little wake-up call for some of the Broncos players. As you said, Mariner, I've watched him play a bit of cup footy, very talented guy. Did his job the other night. I think he'll come more and more into his work. We're hearing that Herbie Farnworth could return come finals time.
Yep.
So that'll be a huge plus for you if you do get him back. We've already spoken about Pat Carrigan, obviously, but you lose him, that's going to be a loss.
Yeah, minimum 4 to 6 weeks, honestly. Minimum. It's just got to go.
Well, if you lose him for how many weeks away at finals? We've got 5 games left.
5 games.
Yeah.
So hopefully
it's going to be interesting, yeah.
Look, if I'm Broncos, I'm just, as long as we get him for game 1 of finals, that's all I care about.
Yeah, and same for Parramatta. I think it's going to be crucial for Brisbane if they are going to give this comp a shake, that they have a home final week 1, which won't be finishing 1 and 2, but it should be finishing either 5th or 6th, I think.
One thing I was a bit surprised at, the bench rotation, Keenan Palasia got 10 minutes, and I'm just like, you got a front rower on there, get him on the field.
He's talented.
And he's talented as anything. I couldn't believe that. It made, just bizarre.
Following that up, Kempy, you blokes are trying to run Payne Haas into the ground.
Oh, mate.
The amount of work he gets through, he's had several different injuries already this year, and he plays 70 minutes. I get that you're chasing a game, but if you're serious about his long, maintaining and looking after this bloke long term, you don't need him playing 70 minutes.
And we've proven we can do it without him.
Exactly right. Like I find it mad.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that all comes off the back of not putting Keenan on the field.
Yeah.
Keenan is a gun. Like, he's a gun. Give him more minutes. I just... That didn't make sense to me. I thought that was a bit of an error on our behalf. So, look, bit of a wake-up call with the Bronx. I don't know. I don't really know what else to say. Was there anything else you saw, Timmy?
No, I'm with you, boys. I think there's no way of sugarcoating it. It was a pretty bad loss to the Tigers at Suncorp Stadium. But, look, you'd had a massive stretch of good form. You got through the Origin period very well, which was gruelling for you with the amount of stars you had out. It's a wake-up call you needed, and I think it'll do wonders for you in the run home.
Yeah. Nah, really, really disappointing loss. Like, as I said, like, I can always cop like losses where I feel like the boys have played the style of footy that we all, have come to love. But I just thought that this game, they definitely... It wasn't the same team that rocked up against the Eels. It was a much more relaxed team that, just wasn't as up for the game as they should be. But there were still some shining lights. I thought Tommy Flegler was outstanding. I think he has been outstanding. Haas is just amazing, seriously. But you're right, we don't want to work him into the ground. And I think it's a great little learning curve for Mam as well, I think. Like, I think Mam is absolutely proven he's the long-term six at this club. He's so impressive. So impressive. As a rookie, sometimes you don't realise, like, I've got to be tippity top every game, otherwise it can get away from me. Hoyter as well. I know he's played some games, but massive congratulations to him. I think he did some stuff like pre-game with Channel 9 or something like that, about his return back to rugby league. It was like 1,000-year layoff. 1,000-year, fucking did. 1,000-day layoff. But outside of that, disappointing loss, but the boys will bounce back. I think they'll bounce back. Now, on to the Tigers. What a fantastic win. Now, although the Broncos didn't play their best, I think the Tigers are playing easily their best footy of the year. They should have beaten the Cowboys last game. This game, they were outstanding. I thought Kapoa, like, if you looked at his stats, like, defensively, he missed quite a few tackles. But I just thought that there were moments with Kapoa that I really was impressed. Like, he's really strong. I thought he took it to Staggs really well. Obviously, I thought Staggs played better. But I don't know, there was just, when Kapoa came in, I was like, well, he looks like he's got a bit about him, but he had some errors or whatever. And I'm not saying that he had like an incredible game or whatever, but there were just some moments that impressed me with Kapoa. I don't know what it was.
There's him and Stafford Toa. I like the look of both of them.
There's something there
about him, yeah.
It's like if you were like sculpting something, you know what I mean? You can see the shape underneath, but you don't know whether you're going to get there or not. There's something there. I thought Ken Mamela was absolutely outstanding for the Tigers. But yeah, look, Hastings was out just amazing. I know we spoke about it, but you wonder, if he was a half, would have he got that injury because he wouldn't have been taking the shit hit-ups? Very easy to say in hindsight. I personally still think he's a half. I was quite surprised that they brought Madden in instead of just putting him at 7. I saw your post earlier. I agree with you. I think that we've probably seen either Brooks or Hastings play the last game. I think Hastings being put to 13... I think that may be an indication, and kept there, maybe an indication that, I don't know, they may be.
As you said, it's an easy thing to say in hindsight, and I agree with you, but the bloke was on one leg the entire season. He was the one thing that was holding this team together, and he was getting held together by tape, essentially. I can't believe they made the decision to play him at 13.
Bash his body around.
I don't know how they saw this coming out any other way.
They saw it as a footy play, didn't they? Because it worked on field, but for him as an individual, it was mad.
But
he's so important to that franchise. I don't think they could have. I thought it was stupid, but anyway.
Because like even at 7, they got a couple wins at 7, so they can win 2 at 7. I agree. Like on the footy field as a team, it's like taking Hastings personally out of it, and let's just assume Hastings could never get injured again. He's outstanding. He's outstanding at 13. I just don't know how he's going to keep that up for the rest. I mean, maybe he can, and it will be amazing. But fuck, it's a tough gig for a bloke that's not.
And like you can talk more about it, like a preseason preparing to play 7, a preseason preparing to play 13. Yeah. They're
totally different body shapes,
different universes. Yeah. And then when he's at his most injured, they move him to 13. I don't know how they expected this to go any other way. And I think people misunderstood what I was saying when this happened. Like, Jackson Hastings was going to be a good 13. He's tough as fucking nails. He's a good ball player. Like, he was always going to be successful, and he'll always do whatever is best for his football team. But this was never going to end any other way than Jackson Hastings getting injured. You've got 17 guys in their top 30 that should have been taking those hit-ups. And yes, it could have happened in any tackle, but the more of those situations you put him in, the more likely he's going to get injured in those positions. And now they're without their best ball player, in my opinion.
Yeah, sucks, man. Fucking sucks. Like, it's hindsight for us. I understand a lot of Tiger fans go like, hang on a sec, like it could have happened in any tackle. Fair enough. I just don't like my main ball player getting through that much work, in my opinion. So, look, you're right. It could happen either way. There's no denying that at all. I just don't think Jackson Hastings, long term, his body would be able to hold up to being a 13, especially when, there's a 7 jersey right there for him. It's right there. Like, Brooks is most likely not going to be there next year.
He made 39 tackles on the weekend.
I know. He fucking worked his dick off.
39 tackles, and he ran for 157 metres.
Yeah.
Tell you what, if he does leave the club end of season and he needs an agent to try and press his new deal, I'll be getting the guru on board because I'm convinced.
But let's focus on the positive. Hastings was outstanding, but Adam Dewey, seriously, make him captain tomorrow.
Captain coach,
whatever you want. Adam Dewey, seriously, he's the heart and soul of that team. He lives and breathes it. He loves it. The boys love him. Essentially scored the match winner. He is an absolutely incredible player, and I think that if you ever needed the Tigers are desperate for the next generation to lead them into some finals footy, Adam Dewey's your man. Listen to him, take on board what he's saying. Like, don't just a lot of the time some young star players can come through and they almost get not dismissed, but you're just a footy player, like, play your footy. But Adam Dewey seems to care so much that, like, if he's not in the senior playing group, he should be in there tomorrow. And I think that he should have a big say in the direction of the squad and also the club. Seriously, that's how important I think Adam Dewey is to this team. Because without him, there is no way they win on the weekend. There's no way. Just no way.
He's just got that competitive edge to him, doesn't he? Like, he's got that I want to play finals sort of mentality. And I don't feel like there's enough guys in this team that do, to be honest with you. I thought that try that Dewey scored, obviously we spoke about it off the scrum and whatnot, but I love the way that, and it's the same as the try that Jack Whiten set up.
Oh, God, that was good.
They stood directly behind the scrum and they just watched the defensive line and they make a decision where they go to. Like, I spoke to you off mic about it, and obviously teams want to get through sets and what, but when you've got your numbers like that and you've got your best player in your team that can create something like that, like if I'm Newcastle, I'm putting KP there off every scrum. If I'm playing the Melbourne Storm and I see Munster stand behind the scrums zoning like that, I'm going, fuck, I'm about to get dusted here.
Yeah,
I would love to see teams do more of it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, scrum players have got to get sorted. So Adam Dewey intentionally offside, and look, because I'm talking about it, you're going to just say I'm a salty Broncos fan.
I'll back you, mate. It's a joke.
It's a joke. It's a fucking joke. And also, to back me up, Guru, I've been talking about this fucking all year. So it's not just because the Broncos got dusted by it, but every fucking scrum, they're intentionally offside. Like, they need to be penalised more than just a bloody, 6 again. It's one extra tackle. Who gives a shit? Like, means nothing. And so we saw the worst outcome. Game's on the line. Broncos get a scrum. There's literally 4 Tigers players on 4 or 5 metres offside. Seriously, so offside. It's so obvious. It's a professional foul. It's an intentional fucking foul done to stop a potential try-scoring opportunity. Anyway, that happens. We just get a 6 again. Who gives a shit? Then we drop the ball. So that's the Broncos' fault. It's no one else's fault but the Broncos' fault. We fucking drop the ball. We deserve to not score a try. We go up the other end. Then the Broncos, too honest, they stay back on their line waiting for the ball to come out. We get a try score on us. Whereas we should have just told Ezra Mam, do exactly what they did. Sprint off the line, and he would have been standing there as Dewey came around the corner.
That's dumb. Like, they should have been doing... Like, nearly every team in the season does it anyway. Like, every team should be doing it.
Yeah.
And the NRL need to change that immediately. Like, it should be... you should be allowed to go for goal. And
100%.
make it 2 points like that.
Minimum.
Yeah,
because,
minimum.
Because, like, what's crazy is, let's say you're ahead 6 points and there's 2 minutes to go. You go, I don't give a fuck. I'll give 2 away any day of the week. It's got to change because it's a professional foul. It is players intentionally doing, like, a foul to not score, to save a try. It's a professional foul. Like, It just does my head in.
I don't know why we're still talking about it after 20 rounds of the season. It's been happening since round 1, probably last year as well. It's such an easy fix.
Oh,
and they're just not doing anything
about it. At the minimum, it should be 2 points. Minimum.
And it's so evident too when like off a scrum, when you give away that 6 again, like you see the players, they're down and they turn around and they see the 6 and they go, okay.
Yep.
And then it's a slow get up, and like the whole advantage you get from having a scrum and having both packs.
You'd almost rather not have
is
it.
Gone. Yeah.
You'd almost rather have just a hit
play
up.
the fucking ball instead.
Yeah,
on
because
zero.
if you have a hit up, they're not going to lay on, because every time they give a 6 again away, they lay on it because they're like, well, I've given it away anyway. I can't be penalised twice, even though Queensland we did, but whatever.
You won the series, mate.
No, but you can't be penalised twice. So all they do, you're right. They give it away. They look up. Oh, damn, sorry, I didn't mean that. Then they just lay on there. Whereas if they did that off what's bizarre is if they did that off a hit up, it would be 2 points, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Like you could choose. You could choose to take the 2 points.
Yeah, because it's only a differential penalty off a scrum, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you, like the ref could say they could choose to give the penalty if they wanted to. Or they could give 6 again. Anyway, it needs to be fixed. But that out of the way, because I don't want to dim the Tigers' win. They absolutely were the better side. There's no denying it. And you know what? They were the better side because they bent the rules best. Like, bend the rules. They were smart. We were silly as Broncos. We should fucking get offside. Anyway, outside of that, look, I personally think this is the best the Tigers have looked. And I also think that like if they keep putting this together and they get Api Coruscant and they get Papali'i next year, maybe they do fight for that 8 spot. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but if they play with this much guts and this much aggression and energy, I can definitely see a world where they'd be sitting in the same spot as, say, a Dragons right now. Like, put it this way, I feel like their game this week and last week were as good as Dragons' form at the last few weeks. I'd honestly say that. Now, I know that a season's a long season, but I think there's a lot to look forward to for this Tigers squad. I really do.
Yeah, Appy really could just smash this open for the Tigers, and it'll come down to who's in the halves for them, obviously. You need Dewey to stay fit, and then you need to work out who your 7's going to be, whether it's Jock, Jackson, Luke, whoever it is.
Surely it's Jackson.
Dewey has lifted them off the canvas. Like, he's had 4 80-minute games back. The Tigers were an absolute rabble before that. In those 4 games, they lost 28-20 to Para. They lost to an understrength Penrith side in the last 2 minutes. They should have beaten the Cowboys, and then they've beat in Townsville, and then they've beaten Brisbane relatively comfortably at Suncorp, like coinciding exactly with Dewey back to 80 minutes.
Mate, he is whatever Brooks is getting paid, fucking give it to Dewey. Seriously.
And they still wanted to bring him back as a centre.
Fuck, that's crazy to me. Absolute insanity. He's so incredible. Anyone else? I thought Naden had a solid game. I thought he was really solid, Naden. Dane Laurie, I thought, was really good. Probably not as good as his game last week's against the Cowboys, but I mean, fuck. I seriously think that was the best game of his career. I think Laurie's starting to hit some really good form. I wonder whether that's, it's really interesting because, letting go of Mike Maguire, they seem to be making progress, but now maybe are we seeing the benefit of not having because he was such a hard taskmaster, maybe? I'm not sure. Look, yeah, if they keep this up, they've made the right call for sure. If they can keep this up, they've made the right call.
Yeah, if they can keep this going into next season, they've made the right call. I don't respectfully to them, what they do at the back end of this season, it's great, but there is no pressure on them. There isn't.
I still believe, and I think you agree, is like, you should, if you're going to get rid of Madge, it should be at the end of the year. Like not in the middle of the season. At least give him the rest of the year to do whatever he needs to do.
It still dumbfounds me when they did it. It's just...
Yeah. It should happen, if they were going to do it, it should happen like a year or so ago.
They did it they had 14 days after a bye and they did it on day 11.
I know.
It was just bizarre.
Anyway, look, if they keep this up, then boom, Tigers were right. Good call. If they keep playing like this, because I thought they were outstanding. I really did. So exciting times for Tigers fans, especially the Api Coruscant, Papali'i. Like, imagine Papali'i on that edge. Holy shit. Also, shout out to Alex Seyfarth. 50 tackles, only 1 miss. Fuck, that's a lot of work. Yeah. I think Talangi, is it Talangi or Talagi? I think it's said differently. Anyway, apologies. I'll just say Talangi. I think he's actually going to be quite a bit of a loss for them going to Manly. I think he's a really good player that we're just scratching the surface of his potential. He runs a really strong line, good, just a strong ball carrier. But anyway, on to the next match. We have the Knights versus the Bulldogs. Doggies fans, get excited because I'm telling you, this is a top 8 side. They are playing like a top 8 side. I think that we're finally starting to see them clicking, them gelling. I say it every week, but I'm surprised they're letting go of Paul Vaughan because I think he's been really good for them this year. Their backs, as you said, Shop was outstanding. 8 tackle breaks, 223 metres, 10 tackles, only 1 miss, a try. Kiraz has been, incredible. If anything, and this is like, it sucks because every club lets players go. We've all got history of I wish we didn't let players go. But Kiraz actually used to be with the Knights and was let go to the Doggies and has come in and killed it. And I think that a few weeks ago we were talking about the Knights' development. They just seem to make strange decisions. How could they not see this potential in Kiraz? Ever since he's come in, he's played well. So it's not like he's built into this. He's literally come in defense of O'Brien, he did say, he didn't it's really congratulations to Kiraz, but he didn't see him developing this quickly. So I think we've all been surprised at how quick Kiraz has developed. But I just find it strange. A club that was struggling for outside backs a young guy like that coming through, you couldn't manage to keep hold of him. He goes to the Wooden Spooners. It's not like he's going to the Storm and he turned into this. He went to the Wooden Spooners, and he's been arguably their best outside back all season outside of maybe Addo-Carr.
The optics are awful for Newcastle.
Terrible.
Yeah.
He literally comes back, scores a hat-trick on you. Fuck.
At home.
Seriously, fucking crazy. Anyway, let's talk about Doggies. Doggies, outstanding. I'm excited. I'm really excited. Reid Marnie, William Kikau, are you fucking serious? If they don't fight for the 8 next year, I'll be surprised. Thoughts, boys?
Yeah, I thought this scoreline really flattered Newcastle, to be honest with you. I thought Canterbury were the much better side here. I thought Josh Addo-Carr, he was great. You had him in your team of the week. It's not very often you pick a winger in your team of the week that didn't score a try, but he was that good. He was sensational. Kiraz was great. Sort of already spoken about him at Shop as well. I'm so impressed with him. Every time he comes up against a rep centre, he just has a cracking game.
Yep. What I love about that, sorry to cut you off, is last year he was one of their best players, and this is what's paying dividends this year. It's when everyone was struggling and they were wooden spoon, Shot was fucking ripping and tearing no matter what, and we're starting to see the dividends from it.
And I remember saying, I had a post during the preseason, sort of said, they've got all these star backs coming, Brent Nade and Josh Addo-Carr, and I sort of said, this is the guy to watch inside the building, and I had people tell me he wasn't going to be in the 17.
That's crazy to me.
He's
still 20 years old.
Yeah.
20. You check his age. It's 20 or 21. He's young.
He was playing SG ball 2 years ago. I
love the way he plays. He's aggressive as fuck. Gets in the face. I'm a huge fan of Shop. And you're right. Whenever it's almost the bigger the occasion, the more he steps up.
He loves it.
Fucking
21.
And what I love about these backs is Kiraz and Shop, they're full of energy. And sometimes that's all you need. You just need youthful energy, and it just lifts everyone else. And I thought Braden Burns was really good as well on the weekend. Anyone else stood out for you?
Yeah, no, I thought it was just a good team performance by Canterbury. I thought Burton was solid. I thought Flano was solid. Neither were outstanding, but that's how you want your footy team. Especially a team like them, you want them all to just be putting in. There's been rumours over the last 24 hours or so of some signings for them. Andrew Davies one from Canterbury.
I don't mind it.
Apparently, I think that'd be a good get. And obviously, Franklin Pele is the other name that's been thrown around, who's been doing really good things in New South Wales Cup. So whether those rumours are true or not remains to be seen. But I just feel like everything with Canterbury's heading in the right direction. Shout out to Jackson Tapine as well. I've been calling for him to play for a long time. I thought he was great yesterday.
43 tackles, 0 misses.
Line break, he's been doing this stuff for so long. I can't believe he hasn't been in this side. I mean, if they do sign Andrew Davies, it's going to be interesting. He's obviously a class player, but Canterbury need a back rower. They have got a heap of them with RFM, Tavita, Jackson Tapine. There are a heap of guys there, but a great depth guy to add to your squad if so. But I really hope that Jackson Tapine holds on to that spot in that team for the back end of the season and shows what he can do.
Jeremy Marshall-King, 116 metres. Another great performance. What do you reckon this game, Timmy?
I just can't get over the combination of Burton and Addo-Carr. I'm getting Matty Bow and JT vibes about how good their combination is, and just
Yeah.
how in sync they are, and they've played less than a season together. Like
Yeah.
it normally takes so many years to look anything like this between a playmaker and a winger of all positions. To do it in less than a season, like, man, if these two can put 3 or 4 seasons together, what they're going to be doing down the track.
I
Yeah.
thought you were going to say Lockyer Kemp then, I think.
Does remind me of a young Lockie Kemp combination. And you know what's crazy is he could have had a try, but shot, when they fell over each other.
Yeah.
And you could tell they were giving each other the blabs. Like, obviously, they'll be fine after it. But, no, you're right. Like, that combination, very rarely do you see it so obvious, so obviously they're calling these, like, early plays. And Burton, he's cool as a cucumber, just so relaxed and calm, gets the job done. I'm really excited about the Bulldogs. Like, rugby league is great when the Bulldogs are going well.
Yeah.
Bankstown area, when they're going well, they just add a passion that you just don't see anywhere else. The Bulldogs fans. Really exciting times for doggies. Really exciting times. Shout out to Harrison Edwards, came on and made 34 tackles, 0 misses. Fuck, it's a pretty good
How long
knock
was
for
he
him.
on for?
54 minutes. So played a fair whack.
Wow.
Doesn't even have a picture here on his singer, Harrison Edwards. Was he a debut, maybe?
It was his debut.
He was debut. Fair crack. 34 fucking tackles, no misses. You know what? The only thing I think right now that I'd say that they miss is maybe like a link 13. It's really all. That's where we've spoken about it, where we feel like Top Iron. Like, maybe they try him at 13. Because he can ball play. We know he can ball play, and he's clearly big enough because he plays on the edge.
The other one that I noticed too, and obviously when we're talking about the Sharks, was having a look at the Newtown Jet side. Billy Magoulias is back playing there as well.
Great
Big Billy's
Magoulias!
back.
I'm stoked he's back, the great Magoulias.
What happened? He was overseas.
Yeah, he went over to
certainly.
England. He's just come back, so he's
Right.
playing for Newtown now.
Yeah, good. Maybe he'd get a call up. I was shocked when he didn't get a club. Shocked. So great game by the doggies. It's exciting times. It's finally coming together. Should Mick Potter be extended?
It's worth a conversation.
Surely.
Yeah.
Surely. Look at the turnaround. Like,
Winning is winning.
he's found a way. The players are playing for him. He won't break the bank. You don't have to sign him on a fucking mega 5-year deal. Now, I understand, like, the Serraldo, when it's hot, get him, so he doesn't sign with someone else. But right now, where else would he sign Serraldo? Maybe you just say to Serraldo, look, let's just give it another year. We'll see how it goes. And then we'll approach you. Because,
1 year of Potter, assess the options in the meantime. If Potter kills it, extend him.
I just think one last thing on Canterbury. Like, I remember sitting at the start of the season and they'd signed Tavita Pangai Jr. and I sort of thought, if they can get the best out of TPJ, this side could really give it a shake. I mean, they're playing great footy. Tavita hasn't played more than 40 minutes in the last month.
yeah.
Like, it's not like they're a team that's relying on, hopefully, the X factor to do something. Like, he's been pretty quiet the last month and they're playing great footy.
Yeah, honestly, depending on what he's on. If he's on a big wicket, I can see them going.
I don't think he'll be there by the end of next year.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised. If he's on a big wicket, I can absolutely see Gus Gould saying, mate, look.
Especially the amount of forwards they've got. Like, it probably is, hopefully Flano can keep kicking on, but next year they'll have the fullback in Avrilo, they'll have the hooker, they'll have the pack. Might be time to go out in the market and get yourself a...
Well, if I'm Gus, I'm saying, mate, like, you get a massive deal in Super League. Maybe consider it. He's still, 28, I think, 27, 28. So he's got plenty of footy left in him. But I just don't know who would pay 600 to $700K for him right now. That's the only concern for Tavita. You could go down the boxing route if you wanted to. He looked good in the ring a while ago. But yeah, look, if he's on 600, 700K right now, and for that, it's just too much.
Tavita's 26.
26, so plenty of footy left in him.
Fuck, he'd do some damage if he went to the Super League. Good
He'd
God.
absolutely. If he stayed focused in that, holy shit.
He'd end some careers over there.
But 10 minutes here or there for a bloke on 500-600K, it's just not worth bang for buck. Even if he comes on and kills it for those 10 minutes, just not. So interesting. I think he'll be one to track because he'll either increase his minutes and play like we all know he can play, which is incredible. Like, seriously, if he ever reached his potential, he'll be able to do whatever he wants.
You'd have to assume next year with Paul Vaughan gone and with seemingly one of their 9 back rowers filling other spots, he'd probably have to play
front row
as a middle.
Yeah. Now on to the Niue Knights. Wow. wow. I don't know what to say anymore with the Knights. I thought Clemmer ripped in. He always bloody rips in. I thought their forward pack had a fair crack. I really do. They all, ran over 100 metres. Unfortunately, they're desperate for halves right now. They're desperate for halves. Can't express it enough. Outside of that, I honestly just don't know what to say. Like, they just got beaten by last year's Wooden Spooners at home. A team that should literally be in the finals. Obviously after losing Pearce, we had them outside the 8. But if you're getting rid of Pearce, you better have someone there to be as good. I'm really concerned about the Knights. I really am.
They are obviously back in those years where they got the wooden spoon, like those performances at home were disgraceful. But considering the squad they've got and what they're putting out on a sunny afternoon in Newcastle, it's deplorable at the moment.
It's very unfortunate.
Like, at least back then you were like, okay, you've got a shit squad though. You're having a clean out, you got nothing doing. There's 4 guys in their forward pack that have played State of Origin in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
They've got, Jake Clifford. We were sitting here after 5 weeks and he's the form player of the comp. Anthony Milford's been to a grand final. They've got fucking Dane Gagai at centre. I understand it's not perfect. They're without KP, a few other guys, but they shouldn't be this bad.
No, it's... Yeah, I feel terrible for them because it's just not working. I don't know. And the tough thing is like O'Brien has improved the club. He brought him into finals footy, but I don't know what the answer is. Like, who have they recruited for next year?
Adam Elliott.
Like, they need a gun 7. That's what they need, desperately.
Well, like, we're going to get to the start of next year and Adam Elliott will come in, but you lose Mitch Barnett. I'd rather have Elliott, but it's sort of a bit of a square up. Anthony Milford's not going to be there. Who's going to be the halves? Are we going Clune Clifford? You're going with the 2 guys that you couldn't settle on.
Honestly, they're in a fair bit of trouble, in my opinion. A fair bit of trouble. Like, some positives is I thought Anari Tuala had some good moments, worked his arse off, had a couple of line breaks.
Simi Sasagi had some good touches in attack. Defensively, he sort of struggled, but in attack, he was good.
Yeah, guy ran for 189 metres. But the concern is like, you can have the best players in the world, but when you got halves that just, it's unfortunately not working. Like, even their kicking game, like, they both kicked for, so Milford kicked for 281 metres and Jake Clifford kicked for 258. Matty Burton kicked for 600 metres and Flanagan kicked for 52. So you're looking at like nearly, 250 to 300 metres more kicking. It's just like, it's the field position difference is gigantic. Very concerned for the Knights. So what do you reckon, Timmy?
Mate, I've got nothing to add to the Knights. That I'll just be repeating what I've said the last 3 months about them. So the only thing I'll say is congrats to the Hunter faithful, 20,000 people turning out for that on a beautiful day, despite what they're dishing out. Footy-wise, like, I've got nothing to add.
Yeah.
And I love the Knights as a club, but
same.
Nothing.
Same. Like, I'm at a loss. I'm literally at a loss. Like, even like little things like, geez, they could use Connor Watson right now. Like, put him in the 13 jersey. I'm sure he'd add a lot of energy. And I know he left. I know they did offer him a contract or whatever, but it's just it's more of an example of the environment that is there currently. Like, players want to go somewhere else for a chance at a premiership, which sucks. Like, Knights, a lot of players would have left the Roosters if the Roosters are going to ask, but at the same time, like, you'd hope that these guys would be, want to stay over going somewhere else. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I really, really don't. They have the side to do it. They show patches of it, but
They were never in that contest yesterday. Playing a bottom 8 team at home, Sunday afternoon in Newcastle, that's a shit fight.
Now, who can you sign, though, on the market? Who would be open? Should have they gone after Foran?
Foz, yeah, I'd be reaching out to Hastings personally.
I'd be willing to fucking pay him.
I reckon Hastings is the man.
Yeah. Pay him whatever he needs to come in.
I don't know if I'd be... I don't think Luke Brooks is the answer for the Newcastle Knights.
No, I don't
think it's going to
so.
be too much on him. I think Hastings is the go-to there, and I think, and you bring it up every single week, like, when KP is on the field, he's just not getting good ball. I think that's the one thing that Jacko has shown, that he's one of the better ones in the league at, just getting good ball to players when they need it. So yeah, I reckon he's what they should go for.
Is there anyone else in the comp that you would consider? Shows you like just finding a
Still
good
got Mitchell
seven is
Pearce's
fucking
number?
Oh mate, oh,
It's hard though because like a lot of the quality sevens have been snatched up already.
Would you consider bringing Piercy back? If you said,
fucking oath I would.
I would seriously. I seriously would take him back. I would seriously take him back.
They'd be mad not to.
Like fuck, I would be desperate to get him back. I honestly, fuck. Anyway, sorry Knights fans, but it's hard. It's hard. I got such big raps on this team. You look at it on paper, it just doesn't seem to be coming together. And like, I feel sorry for guys like Clemmer who are absolutely working their asses off, and it just doesn't seem to be working for them. And the tough thing is you look at their meters, they're making good meters. It's not like they're not getting go forward. Like the knock on teams that struggle usually is like, well, the forward pack's not getting forward, so how am I supposed to do anything? But you look at it and you go, fuck, they're all getting forward. They're all over 100 meters. It's just, oh man. Anyway, damn, sucks. On to the last game of the round. One of my dumb picks again. I thought the Dragons were going to upset the Cowboys. I thought the Cowboys had leaked too many points in the last four weeks. But the Cowboys were outstanding, especially in that second half. Nanai is an absolute freak of nature. Seriously, that kid can truly be whatever he wants to be. We're talking about a 19-year-old that's got 3 line breaks, 150 metres, 2 tries, a try assist, 26 tackles, 4 offloads. Like, fuck. He's just getting started too. 19 years old. Didn't even have a cemented start at the start of the year. Like, amazing stuff. So good to watch. So exciting. I thought Valentine Holmes was so good. Far out, hasn't he just, found his form? Like, just found where he belongs now. Dearden had a solid game. He had 120 metres, 6 tackle breaks, 2 line break assists. Townsend kicked for 500 metres. It just seems all of these better sides, outside of maybe Melbourne, like their 7 is kicking for like 500 to 600 metres. Scotty Drinkwater was fucking silky as silky can be. 2 tries, a try. What about that flick pass? Holy shit. Yeah, look, Cowboys, the real deal. What about Jason Taumalolo hitting short for a line? Are you serious? He's fucking got silky hands hitting short lines. We're talking about Jason Taumalolo here. Absolutely amazing. What do you think about
that? That was Griffin Neame, wasn't it?
Griffin Neame, who's been fucking great too. What do you think of this game, Timmy?
Yeah, it was a really good. Brisbane have had what I think is their wake-up call this week against the Tigers. The Cowboys had it last week against the Tigers.
So the Tigers are an alarm clock.
Yeah, they are. Get teams going. I thought, I think that was a bit of a shake-up for them last week, and they responded really well in a game that, said, if we're talking about the Cows as genuine title contenders, it was a game they had to be winning, but it didn't mean it wasn't a danger game by any means. They said you tipped them and you weren't alone in that one. There was plenty that did. Dragons came out of the blocks quicker. They put together pretty well an 80-minute performance for me. I didn't think they had many lulls in the game, which is what you want to see. I thought they were fantastic. And I also loved, prior to the game, how wholesome was the moment, I don't know if you saw it, where the Dragons had the touch for women in league round of coming out with significant women in their lives. And Tyrell Sloan was at the end of it with his nan, who looked quite old and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, good.
Had his arm around it. It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
But, the Cows, as I said, it was an 80-minute performance, and Toddy Payne would have been stoked with it.
We saw the mousetrap earlier. The Phantom Siren came back too.
Yeah,
how good.
I thought there was no way I was going to get caught on that. I was going to save it till the end.
Great to see.
Guru, you fucking ruined his day.
The rugby league grades.
Ruined Timmy's day.
Did you read my
I saw it on his notes, to be fair.
I was like, surely not.
Mate, the Cowboys looked fucking really, really good, and like this is the time that you want to, start building up that confidence, and we can put these teams to the sword, and also just the way they went about it. The Dragons were right up into it. Up until half-time, the Dragons were in it, and it could have turned into one of those just absolute shit fights, the real grindy, and the Cowboys just said, no, we're going to stay disciplined, we're going to stick to our processes, and by the end of it, 34-8, like, at half-time, there's no way you would have suspected that would have been a score, but that's a sign of a good team that can go, we'll give you solid footy in the first half, good quality footy, but we can also take it up another gear, and that's what they did, the Cowboys. They are looking special, and I genuinely believe that they're premiership threats, and If they're running out in the grand final this year, I wouldn't be surprised. I really would not be surprised.
Wasn't Leilua a fucking handful?
Fuck.
He's such a good addition to this side. I think he had 5 tackle breaks and 2 offloads or something along those lines.
And he's not even like there yet.
No.
You know what I mean? Like he's still got more in him. We've seen it at the Tigers. He's just finding his feet at the moment.
Isn't it great too for these out? Well, I mean, it's great from the wider lens that these outside backs that if you're not having a good game, Hammer will come in.
Yeah.
It just pushes you to another level every single week because we've got a state of origin star sitting on the bench waiting to take one of your spots.
Crazy.
They spoke to Drinkwater after the game, and he's pretty much said, "Oh fuck, I had to play well. I got hooked last week.
Yeah,
it is
wow.
what it is. So I had to come out and perform."
Yep. Fuck. Scotty Drinkwater getting hooked. That's how the standard there right now is. That's how high it is. Like you have one bad game, you're getting hooked. And we look at the stats, like 86% completion, right where you want it. Like anything over 85 is a massive win. Their meterage is nearly 500 metres more. Post contact over 100 metres more. Like all of the things you want. Their tackle breaks are nearly double that of the Dragons. I think it was just a case of them showing how much better their roster is right now than the Dragons, unfortunately. So, yeah, Cowboys fans, what a turnaround. What a season for the Dragons. Only 7 errors the whole game. It's pretty good. Pretty good for the expansive style of footy they play. Like, we got Drinkwater doing fucking 2-metre flick passes.
Thought Tommy Dearden was great too, once again.
Yep, absolutely. They actually conceded more penalties than the Dragons and still won by that much, which is pretty incredible. Missed tackles, only 22. That defence that they have is just the foundation. Like, obviously, they've had a poor month defensively, but they bounced back in a big way. So very exciting times for Cowboys fans. And lastly, to the Dragons. Look, I thought Benny Hunt defence was pretty poor, if I'm going to be honest.
Yep.
And I know Benny Hunt's, look, no one has been more excited and have more love for the man that is Benny Hunt over the last month. Fuck me. He can miss every tackle he ever makes, ever, and he still should be given a free beer every time he enters a pub. But he was pretty poor in defence on the weekend. Mate, in Queensland, I tell you what, if you get lifetime free bloke beer. You just name it, Benny. You give me a message, mate. I'll send you fucking as many as you like. But yeah, unfortunately, I thought he defensively was a bit poor. I think he's just fatigued, if I'm being honest. Like, you can't you cannot expect this bloke to fucking keep turning up and lifting the team into the 8. Do we think that the season's over for the Dragons?
I do, yeah.
You reckon it's done because they're points differential?
Points differential. I think in order to get in front of the Roosters, they're going to have to wrangle in 2 wins on them and 200 points. I don't think they've got those sort of points in them.
Timmy, what do you reckon? They Dunskies?
Mate, I'm going to change my name in your phone to Ben Hunt. Send you my address and say 300 cases of bloke beer, please. Mate, I've said it before. I have been pretty crash hot on the Drags all year, so nothing's changed from that game. They had a good win a couple of weeks ago, but I've never had them sort of in the top 8, and I think they've overachieved to this point anyway.
Okay. I will say, I thought Zach Lomax had a really good game. I thought that he just tucked the ball, and a lot of times where he would have flicked the pass, he didn't. He held it. I thought he showed a lot of energy.
What about when they got stuck into him, the commentators, for not flicking? There's one play where it's kind of on, kind of wasn't. Like, where was the flick that time? It was like, fuck.
Look,
you've been bullying him for the last month for over flicking. Just let the kid play his game. Like,
I'll let you know, Secret Guru, I usually have commentary on mute. There's some commentators that are a bit rough to listen to, unfortunately. I know it's a tough gig, but it's just not my cup of tea. Just like I'm sure they don't listen to my podcast. But yeah, giving him shit for not flicking. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Are you serious? Anyway, whatever. I'm trying to look for some positives for the Dragons, but unfortunately their meterage was down. They didn't really get much of a roll on. I mean, they stayed gritty in that first half, but they just didn't have the firepower. They just really didn't. They didn't have the firepower to go with the Cowboys when the Cowboys said, okay, we're going to lift it up a gear here. Is it a bad year for the Dragons, though? No, I don't think necessarily. My only concern for the Dragons is who have they recruited for next year? Does anyone know? Now, there is reports that they're about to extend Benny Hunt for another 2 years, which is a good thing in my opinion. But Ben Hunt can't continue to carry this side. Eventually, he's going to fatigue. He needs some help. I just think that their forward pack, although they've got some really good battlers there, they just don't have the same oomph as you look at the Cowboys forward pack, it's explosive. It just can bend the line. I just worry a bit for the Dragons forward pack.
Yeah, as do I. And yeah, I don't think they have signed any. They're going to lose Tariq Sims. Yep. I don't know what changes there. I don't know, what changes for next season. I don't see them improving all that much next year.
With them basically can't make the 8, do you see Sloan coming into that fullback position and preparing for next year?
Probably not. Knowing Hook, probably not.
And Cody, I wouldn't mind it, but Cody Ramsey's back either this week or next week.
Oh, I thought he was gone for a while.
Nah,
okay,
and he's obviously been quite good there. So
yeah. No, he's been good.
Sort of puts a question mark around Sloan and where he does get a run.
Yep. If that's the case, I'd be surprised if Sloan doesn't get an offer from another club because I think that there's plenty of potential there, a lot of potential. Yeah, so look, the Dragons are in a really interesting spot. Again, the worry is that if they're going into the next season with this same roster, I don't know. I think this year I said they might fight for the 8. They might be a smoky. Going off what I know now, like right now, with looking at that Dragon squad and going into next year, I probably would have them with how much the Bulldogs improving, the Tigers improving, with how much the 8's improved. I actually think they'll struggle even more next year to make the 8.
I suppose that the only, and what maybe Hook's looking at in that squad is going, all right, they've invested in guys like Talatau, Amon, Cody Ramsey's getting a decent run at fullback in the back end of the season. Matt Feeney, there's a few, particularly backline players and attacking players that maybe they're going, all right, we'll put the time into them this year. They'll have a full season behind them, and then going into next year, they'll have that experience, and maybe that's where investing, and that's where they're expecting to up as a squad.
Yeah.
That's looking at again glass half full approach, but just trying to find something.
Yeah, well, you got Josh Maguire who's leaving. You got Aaron Woods, who is also leaving, I think. He hasn't been re-signed, has he?
Yeah, I think he's on his way out. Yeah.
So then you've got Tariq Sims, who's leaving, and I just don't know who's replacing them. And I haven't seen any young forwards that have, made their debut this year for the Dragons where I've gone, oh, shit, here's a gun. So bit concerned about their forward pack at the moment, bit concerned. Do I think their year's a failure? No, I don't, actually. I think they're about where their roster kind of suggests.
Yep.
I might even go as far to say is, Ben Hunt's incredible season, that's a win for the club as well. Like that takes the club to make that player that way. He doesn't just get that way by himself. So that's a win for the club. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do next year. I don't know, look, Michael Molo, he came in, he was pretty good in his few games he played. But outside of that, pretty disappointing loss for the Dragons fans. I think they'll be pretty disappointed with that. That's us for the week. That's us for the week, boys and girls. Thank you for listening. Any announcements, boys?
Yeah, we'll be back for Beers and Break-Evens. It'll be available Wednesday morning. So stay tuned for that. We'll put up some questions on my Instagram story if you want to send them through. Some Supercoach assistance.
Send them through. Make sure to follow SC Playbook 1 on Instagram, Rugby League Guru on Instagram, and also subscribe to both podcasts. Grab a case of Bloke in a Bar or grab some merch from bloke.shop. And as usual, I'll go and fuck myself. Thank you.